The college football season has ended. It is over. That brings a sigh of relief. That also brings despair. That also brings disappointment. That brings jubilation. That brings a lot of different emotions. Interesting game last night. Notre Dame, Ohio State. Greg McElroy was on the call for it in Atlanta via the radio. Another person on it with him was Ian Fitzsimmons, who will join us at 7:20. Give us a little bit of perspective of what it was like on the field last night. How are you? Where are you? What are you doing?
I am home. I walked in the door last night at around 1:58 a.m. Got cleared off Sports Center and got in my car as quickly as I could and tried to get on the road and get out of there. I didn't know what the weather was going to be like tonight, and I did not want to reenact last Friday's events. But here, home, a little sleep deprived, but in a good spot mentally with the regular season and the postseason in the tank. And I came home to find out that my son watched every second. My 5-year-old son watched every second of the national championship and refused to go to sleep because he had to watch the end of the game, which I feel like we're doing an adequate job if that's the case last night, right? Albeit, yes, maybe we should have forced him to go to sleep. Fair. You can push back on that. But him wanting to stay up and watch it fires me up.
I think that's great. I have to leave notes in the morning and actually had to call because I forgot to leave a note this morning, so I already spoke to him. Also had to manage the frustration of school being canceled. So not from the children, by the way. But
no school?
Apparently not.
Last minute, no school.
Yeah, which is...
Really?
Mom's had a lot of days home alone with the kids. So here in the last month or so. Not feeling it today. So we got to find some activities, folks.
There's so many things to do outside when it's 10.
That's what we got to figure.
And no snow.
And on top of that, I don't believe that I'm going to be the only one trying to figure those things out. So the things that I do figure out are probably going to be crowded. And but we'll come up with something. We got some football in outside last night, so that means we can probably get some in today. But that's only 2 of the 3. We got to figure out something out for the other one. But
I came home last night, buddy. We have a tackling dummy in our front yard and a red football that I swear is glow in the dark, but it's not. You can see it from a mile away. All I saw on the ground, I thought there was a person lying in our front yard, and I pulled into the driveway last night, and it was the tackling dummy that was outside. So great. That thing might stay outside, and we might just bundle up and go have a game.
You steal that from like the local middle school practice?
No, I bought that actually. I actually bought it from Academy or Dick's. I don't recall exactly where I bought it from, but I bought it because Vince had a football-themed birthday party last year, and I thought that would be a really good. I'm not sure his mom necessarily agreed, but felt like that would be a good activity as opposed to like throwing in trash cans, throwing in nets. We had different spots all over the place where they had, you can do different things, and tackling dummy was one of them.
It was like the real old school one that like doesn't have arms. It's not like the blow up kind or anything.
No, it's like a big pylon basically. Oh yeah. No, it's a real deal. It wasn't cheap, and we've gotten our money's worth out of it. I actually highly recommend you buying one.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be that might be today.
I'm telling you,
figure something. We got a lot of things we need to think of for today. Because mom's not having it anymore. She's like, you got to think of something. I need. I've had enough days by myself at home. Which I don't blame her. With the end of bowl season wrapping up, there's always that one last run of just. And I think you and I were both in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl, which extended a little bit, and just she needed school today. I'm just going to say that, and I don't blame her. I get it. I get it. And I was under the impression that we were good. It was all clear. Has that changed? Are we?
I don't think so.
Are we going to survive now?
There were some schools, especially further north, that preemptively canceled today and tomorrow, but they did that earlier. So doing this immediately now feels a little.
Well, the best part of the conversation was when she called me a few minutes ago. I had I guess it's like Weather Nation or not Weather something. Yeah. The Dollar General of weather channels.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they
Dollar General, by the way, that. Please do not take that personal. Dollar General rips. Family Dollar, okay, you got my attention.
I don't appreciate any of their ruse, but either way, I said, yeah. I don't know. It's Baton Rouge and College Station are getting hammered right now, and she's like, Yeah, well, our teachers aren't driving in from Baton Rouge and College Station. So I was like, okay, I'll see you at 10. I'll get home as fast as I can. Goodbye.
Fair point.
I think we're still up and running. I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are way over on the other side of the state, so I'm sure it's really.
Well, I just
I get it. Yeah,
we are Mountain Brook. We're at elevation. So I just figured maybe we'd have some snow or something.
You can afford the sand for the roads, I guess.
Oh, here we go. yeah. You guys are so hard off over there in Homewood.
It's a struggle. It's a grind over here.
Wow.
It is.
Yeah,
it's
tough.
Just, you gotta watch out. So yeah, that's where we are. We'll figure it out. We'll be okay.
You want to bring the kids to Mountain Brook?
I mean, if we can make it, I don't know. See if the
meet you on the playground.
Sierra.
Let's have a day.
Yeah, see if the Sierra from Royal Buick GMC can get me over there and be able to find a way to make that happen. But I don't know. I think just because too, this was so unexpected that it's just like it kind of hit her in the face and she's struggling a little bit. But like I said, I don't blame her at all. I understand completely. All right, national championship game last night. You were on the call for it. You were there in person. How dead did you think Notre Dame was after 4 Ohio State drives?
The deadest.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a concern. I always remain optimistic about Notre Dame. Like they're just a really, really solid team that will refuse to give up. I'm never going to sit there and say that they won't fight, but I'd never felt at any point after the first drive that they were going to win that football game. Because if you look at the drive they had, 18 plays, 75 yards right down the field, they averaged on that drive less than or just over 4 yards of play. And none of the plays were all that explosive. And Ohio State's answer 6 minutes later, it was like, oh boy, the holes that these running backs are running through are enormous. Meanwhile, Riley Leonard had to convert 2 4th downs and grind his way to 44 yards rushing on about 13 carries. So I felt pretty confident after I saw the first Ohio State drive that it was going to be a long night for the Irish. And that's exactly kind of how it went down. Now, they gave us some life and some energy late, which they should be commended for sure. But the best team won, the more talented team won, and the team with the better roster at the moment won. So I can't say any of last night was all that surprising, but the way and the ease with which Ohio State was able to maneuver their way down the field was pretty surprising.
It was concerning for me because when I watched that first drive, and being a little bit old school, you're like, man, what a way to start a game. That is just absolutely beautiful. How could you not love that? But I don't know how closely you could see it because doing radio, it's always a little bit different. You don't have as much time to look down and around and see different things because it's a lot of fill. And that's peeling back the curtain a little bit for folks that may not get that. But it's just in TV, you have graphics that go up. You have reads, different things, and radio you can kind of move around the booth and do whatever you want, but you kind of have to pay attention to what's on the monitor when you're doing television because it needs to address what's happening there. So I don't know if you're able to watch it as closely as I was, but I had a lot of texts coming in from some Notre Dame friends and from some O-line friends about how awesome that drive was. But I kind of saw what the D-line was doing and saw guys getting off blocks and guys not being blocked and Ohio State not really being overly committed to stopping it on that drive. And I was like, yes, it was great. It looked cool. I loved it, but I immediately did not feel as though it was sustainable because like you go watch 58 and 91 and 44, they were really close to making a lot of plays on that drive that went for positive yards. And pass pro, even on that first drive, wasn't great. So it just didn't feel like it was going to be able to continue. It just didn't. And then, like you said, the ease and efficiency in which Ohio State moved the football. Will Howard starting 13 for 13. What were they? They were 4 for 4 on their first 4 drives, all scoring touchdowns. The first team in the history of a college football to score on their first 5 drives of a national championship game, which, by the way, I was really surprised that USC didn't do that against Oklahoma. But when I saw that number, but it just that was the part that I really didn't feel like Notre Dame had an answer for, was defensively, what were they going to do? Like, what were they going to try to take away? And I think the ultimate answer in that, Greg, was 3rd and 11. All right, you got to go get him. And you had to leave Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. And it's not like it was an incredible route. It was a great throw, but it was not like it was some immaculate play. It goes back to what you said from the beginning, the ease and efficiency in which Ohio State moved the ball. I know throwing the ball 40 yards down the field is not a high percentage play, but there wasn't a high level of difficulty in that completion on 3rd and 11.
There wasn't a high level of risk. Like, I know it's not a high percentage completion, but it's a one-on-one with your best player against their 7th best player on defense. And if you look at the trajectory that Will Howard threw it with, there's no way that Jeremiah Smith wasn't going to catch that ball. I mean, the only way that ball is not complete or it doesn't draw a pass interference penalty by the defense is if Will Howard throws it out of bounds. And it's literally the only way that ball isn't caught. So I while it was not a high percentage completion, I think the play was smart because it was a low percentage of risk and a high percentage of success. You know what I mean? That, I think, is but it was a great throw. It ended up being perfectly on the dot, but if it's slightly underthrown, Jeremiah Smith goes up, makes a play. Maybe they draw a DPI. If it's thrown too far to the inside, probably draw a DPI. And you knew pressure was probably coming, so you had max protect and you took a one-on-one shot. Like, that's about all you can ask for. So pretty impressive there, I think, at the very end. The throw, the catch, the timing of the throw. And Sean had asked me before the timeout, like, do you think they'll throw it here? I was like, yeah, if you do, you better throw it to Jeremiah Smith. Like, he's been quiet in the second half, but it's time. You know, now is the time where you want to be looking in his direction. And sure enough, they go deep, and it was a perfectly executed play.
All that being said, and Ohio State's talented. Ohio State has great players. Ohio State had the better roster. Ohio State had more talented players. Like, that was a sloppy game for Notre Dame. I mean, you got to snap.
They did not play well.
You got a snap that hits a guy in motion. You miss a field goal. You're not great on 3rd down. You had a false start, I think, on the second drive, and then a hold on the second drive, which you had an opportunity to maybe come out second drive and continue some things again. Then you back yourself up. You shoot yourself in the foot then. So that brings me to this question. Jolly tweets in, and this is a lot. I get it, but I'm curious as to what you guys think Notre Dame needs to get over the hump and win the Natty. Are they close, or is the gap further than it appears? My initial reaction to that, Greg, would be, I think the good news for Notre Dame is you are close, and I'm not sure we're going to get a roster close to what Ohio State had this year.
No.
And I honestly mean that. And you and I have said this multiple times. There are a few other people nationally who I think are onto it. I think Josh Pate's onto it. I think Andy Staples is onto it. I don't hear a ton of people saying it, but I think some people understand the amount of 4th and 5th year players inside that program. Herb Street said it. I saw him and Desmond going back and forth on game day 2 weeks ago. Des tried to have some fun with it and was, didn't want to buy it. And Kirk's like, no, man, I don't. Yeah, they went and got a few guys, and they spent good money to get them. But 75%, if not 80% of the core of that group that contributes, that plays, are guys that have been there and been there a while. And I don't know how many teams are going to have that moving forward. I really don't. It's going to be really difficult, and we don't know exactly how the rules are going to change and what's going to be put in place and how Congress is going to affect things. But it is hard to imagine, Greg, that you're going to have that kind of a core and then go cherry pick a couple of add-ons that also help you a lot and are super talented and put that on the field against a lot of other teams.
Yeah, and if you look at their defense by itself, 8 seniors. 8 seniors. Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, Sawyer, Tyleek Williams, Ty Hamilton, Tuimoloau, Al, Cody Simon, all seniors. Lathan Ransom, all seniors. And then the guys that start that are not seniors are Davis and Nick Benosin, the number one corner, not the number one corner, so I apologize. He had another 2 penalty outing last night.
Led the nation, if I'm not mistaken.
What's that?
Led the nation, if I'm not mistaken.
That'd be 17 defensive penalties this year. Not sure it's possible to have that many. And Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles. So 3 guys starting on their defense that are not seniors. 2 of those 3 are juniors with Igbenosin and Styles. So, and then you look at the guys that were in rotations, like Kenyatta Jackson, 97, junior. Caden Curry, number 92, junior. Those are the two defensive ends that spell Sawyer and Tuimoloau out. So the guys that were really in the rotation, I mean, a vast majority of those guys are third-year players. And I think that they clearly knew what they were doing, and they went out and knew that this was a year when they had to go get it. And they did a really good job of going out and getting the right pieces, like a Jeremiah Smith, like a Quinshon Judkins, like a Will Howard, who I thought was tremendous last night.
But go back to that defense like you're talking about, Greg. Igbinosun, yes, starter, contributes. Caleb Downs, starter, dynamic player, awesome player. Who is the next biggest transfer contributor on defense?
There isn't one.
I mean, Tywan Malone getting, third team reps at D tackle. Lorenzo Styles, like a little bit in the secondary, maybe sometimes. Like they don't. Yeah,
his most notable impact last night was a hold on a punt.
So that's the part that I think is going to be difficult to replicate for a lot of teams moving forward. Offensively, you said it, like we know Seth McLaughlin, we know your original left tackle were both transfers, but neither of them are even playing right now. It's not and of course Judkins is really good, plays a lot.
Yep.
You could say backup quarterback, but he's not really doing anything. You're not getting the majority. I mean, still, and it was an unfortunate. Listen, because it is what it is, man. Like it's like I ran into John Summerall in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl, and he and I had a long conversation about a lot of things, and a lot of things that circulate around today's college football. And this is one reason I love Summerall so much. Is, hey man, you can either complain or you can get out there and go figure it out. And that was, we talked about transfers. We talked about, we talked about recruiting. We talked about the money you have to spend on your program. We talked about, your collectives. And it kept coming back to the same answer for him. Hey, yeah, man, you can go bitch about it, boy, or you can go try and figure it out. And he never complains. He's always just figure it out guy. And so I wish I could be like that more in life, to be honest with you. Like just figure it out. And it's just, that's what it is. And so many people after the game, they spent $20 million on it. Well, look what they just did in this playoff run, man. Like after they lost to their rival and half their fan base wanted their coach fired. Like they came back out and they punched Tennessee in the crotch. And then come out again the next week when we all thought, all right, well, maybe things even out now. And what happened? No. They go get a team, probably the team in college football, Greg, that could go toe-to-toe with them with overall talent, speed, athleticism. And what do they do to them? They run them out of there at the same time. Texas, after they beat Oregon, the only team that beat them this year outside of Michigan. And then this Notre Dame team that is the epitome of team, they made that look like light work last night. So I got a lot of respect for what they did. The money thing, I don't know. I don't care about it. Like I don't know how people are still hung up on it. I don't know how people I understand if it bothers you. I do, because there's parts of it that I think even Greg and I will tell you, like, it's uncomfortable. We don't love it, but it's not like it's going away. It's not like it's going to be different. It's not like every team doesn't have the opportunity to do something similar. And I will say this. There are a couple people that were clapping back last night about what Coach Saban said on game day, saying every team has. I saw one guy saying every team's got the opportunity to go do it, what Ohio State did. No, they don't. Stop it. Tulane and Troy and UAB and Sanford don't have the opportunity to go do what Ohio State just did. Like, he's like, everybody can go lean on their fan base and their alumni. Okay, well, not everybody has Rutgers alumni base. So if you want to talk about Rutgers going and doing this, or Purdue going to do this, who we found out has 700,000 living alumni, all right, you can throw that, you can cast that stone at them, but don't cast it at Southern Miss and say they should be doing what Alabama's doing. Like, that's not a real thing. But the frustration of, or the blame or the excuse of Ohio State did this, I don't know, man. Like, that sounds odd to me, because there's a lot of teams that were close to what Ohio State did and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers don't win the World Series every year.
They're probably going to win it next year. We hadn't talked about that yet.
But
another number one arm coming in.
The team with the deepest pockets doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win. Like, I think what's remarkable.
Try rooting for the Yankees for the last 10 years.
Well, exactly. So honestly, if you want to alter your perception as a fan of college football, I'm not saying you need to become some Ohio State fan. I'm certainly not. I could care less about the Buckeyes. But I'll tell you this, in a transactional era in which guys are supposed to be all about the money, all about, hey, what's in it for me? We've seen a lot of guys that have been big time me guys in this generation. Guys that are leaving and do this and do that and is all look at me. In a transactional era, in the light of disappointment against Michigan, where they totally wet the bed, they've put way too much stock into that game. There's way too much pressure on their team. They have a countdown clock dating down to one game. It's ridiculous. Like, what'd they do after that disappointment? Did they come together, or did they go start pointing fingers and middle finger to everybody, and this guy did this? Well, it was my coach that did this, and if I would have done this, if we would have gone out and gotten that, they didn't start pointing fingers.
Also, and I think you and I
would have in that situation.
There are other teams that you and I reference this way. Is a band of assassins going to be able to go have that team meeting and pull it together and make that playoff run? Highly doubtful. Highly doubtful, because it probably wouldn't mean much to them. They got their checks, they're good. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I see it.
You think Ole Miss could have come together like that? I
didn't say it, you did. So don't put that voodoo on me. I got enough voodoo coming from Oxford, Mississippi. I don't need more of it.
I'm just saying, I'm just being honest. Like, when you are a team full of guys that are not invested in the program, then you lose to Michigan, who cares? Like, I mean, who cares? You got a team in which guys are all in for each other and for their coach. They're not going to allow that one game define them. And the response, as a competitor and as someone that played at the level and played in the NFL, the response to that performance was nothing short of remarkable, whether you like it or not.
No doubt.
I don't care if you pay them $2 or $20 or $200 million. The response was remarkable, and that's all that matters.
All right, if you are concerned about getting out and about today, be like me and get a truck from Royal Buick GMC. They got plenty of four-wheel drive options, whether it's the Yukon Denali, GMC, Sierra. Also, you can go with the Volkswagen Tiguan all-wheel drive. You can get 0% for 60 months on that thing. $10,000 off select 2025 GMC Sierra models. Sign and drive Volvo XC40, XC60, XC90 models. I got the brand new Hummers in there. If you're looking for four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, doing the crab walk across the ice when it comes, all there at Royal Buick GMC. All valid offers through January 31st. Certain restrictions apply. Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia. Online at royalautomotive.net. Make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. Remember, for every ride, there's Royal. Ian Fitzsimmons was on the sideline of last night's national championship game. We'll ask him what was happening and what he saw next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It's 7:27 a.m., Tuesday, January 21st. Right here on Jocks 94.5. Watch us live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945. You can always tune in to the show that way. Live from Hartsfield International Airport, Ian Fitzsimmons. You can hear him on ESPN Radio. You heard him last night on the national championship game. You were on the Ohio State sideline. We've talked about this Notre Dame team multiple times now in this playoff end of thinking they were dead at certain points in games. Did that Notre Dame sideline sense it? And at what point do you believe you saw them sensing that game was over?
You know what, Cole? I give them a lot of credit. And by the way, I'm in still in the TSA pre-check line, and everyone's going to be staring at me like, who's the idiot on the phone right now acting like he's doing an interview?
Big props to you, because I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't have picked that phone call up. I'm sorry. I
know you wouldn't. I'm about to go man on the street. I'll interview a few fans for you if you want also.
Have at it. We're ready.
Look, man, I give Notre Dame a hell of a lot of credit. I mean, that game is 31-7, and it's church, man. It's time to go to coffee and donuts because service is over, right? And Notre Dame found a way to will themselves back in that game. But when Marcus Freeman went and decided to kick a field goal, down in, I think it was 16 at the time, 31-15, we were all kind of like, wait, what in the heck is this? But you know what? I mean, give them, again, full credit. I mean, they found a way to get it back to a one-score game. And how big was that field goal at the end, man? Not to a lot of people across the country. I can't imagine how many tens of millions of dollars changed hands at the end. But bottom line is this, as Ryan Day told me last night, you go back 4 weeks ago, whoever would have thought outside of anybody in that locker room that this was going to happen. I mean, you had fans calling for his head. They wanted him, drawn and quartered in a public square, and here he is, a national champion. So you give Ross Bjork, the AD, a hell of a lot of credit when he gave that interview after the Michigan game, saying, absolutely he expects him to be, the head coach of Ohio State, and to that, very vocal minority of the fan base that wanted him gone the day after Michigan. There's a big old football finger right from Ryan Day to you, partners, because, hey, they're the best team in the land right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to adjust how they approach the Michigan game badly. But that is a conversation for another day. As far as the performance last night, Ian, great job on the sideline, buddy. Enjoyed working with you as always.
Hell of a call, brother. Hell of a call.
What do you make of just the level of dominance that they had on both sides of the ball? Because, well, like you said, Notre Dame made it interesting. It never really felt like they were going to close the gap. It never really felt like they had any chance to win the game. So how wide was the gap from your vantage point?
Yeah, man, Mackie, and you kind of touched on it last night early in the first quarter. Ohio State's got I think 14. One general manager told me 14 draftable grades on players, another 10 UDFAs. You're talking about 24 guys going to be in NFL camps. Notre Dame, he had 8 draftable grades and about 7 UDFAs. So the talent was one-sided. I mean, in my opinion, and it's just, but again, I got to give Notre Dame a hell of a lot of credit. I mean, Mac, we thought we were going to be in talk show mode, dude, in the third quarter. Right? I mean, we're like, all right, man, get all your Phil stuff, and we didn't need it. So, but just from a talent standpoint, Ohio State is that much more talented, and I couldn't be happier for Ryan Day, man. He earned it. You could tell talking to the players that's the 6th time I've had Ohio State, and those players were playing for Ryan Day. They really were, man. It meant everything to get that dude a title.
It's interesting to think about that part of it. And we mentioned that leadership before we went to our first break today, Ian. Just trying to take listeners inside of what that team is, because it's the general public views it as just a band of assassins, just a bunch of hired guns that are out there trying to get a paycheck.
Yeah, you know what,
why
Cole?
Is it different?
We mentioned that in pre-kick last night. I mean, outside like guys like Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins, right? You're talking about guys they had to retain. They had to bring seniors back. Emeka Buku, Jack Sawyer. These dudes came back to win a title, and they had to fork over some cash to those dudes also. So it wasn't just hired guns and assassins. It was their own guys coming back for that moment last night, and that to me was beyond impressive.
Yeah, that's where most of the money went.
In the pre-check here. Hang on, this is going to be fun, guys. Ready for this one? Hey, how you doing, sir? There we go.
Do you need to give your phone over? Okay.
We've had guys do interviews in less appropriate settings before. Well, Cole did.
I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. Thanks, boss. Appreciate it.
As long as you're not on the air right now,
is that what you're talking about?
Honestly, I do think what a lot of people don't realize though is that, well, hey, the $20 million number gets thrown around, the assumption is all that money went to Caleb Downs, all that money went to transfer players from this past season. That's not true. A lot of that was actually spent on homegrown talent that they wanted to keep for another year as opposed to going and testing the waters of the NFL. And I think that's where it gets really expensive. Like going out and getting guys out of the portal is fine. That's great. You can piecemeal that thing together all you want. But when you are having to spend a ton of money on guys that could be a late first rounder, early second rounder, that's going to get pricey. And I think that's where the money, for the most part, went. Who doesn't want to reward homegrown guys?
Oh, Greg, I couldn't agree with you more, man. And think about this as I'm about to go through this tube here, guys. But what could Caleb Downs get right now on the NIL market?
What could Jeremiah Smith
is he
get?
Open for business? Yeah. Oh, Coach, thank you very much, Cole Cubelic. I mean, think about that. Ponder that for a second, because that is something also that Ohio State's going to have to deal with, and every other team in college football. You got a marquee guy, even though he just won a natty. He's one of the top bidder. I got to go through this too, boys. Hugs and kisses. Love you guys. Unless you want me to call you after. I mean, after I go through this damn thing.
It's up to you. You've been great. You've done more than enough. We would love to continue talking. I do want to know just the kind of the vibe on the sideline. So hit us back when you get through. You got to take your time though, because we'll probably hit a break first.
I got you, boys.
There you go. Ian Fitzsimmons, Hartsfield International Airport, checking in. I can tell you right now, would not have done it. The amount of times that my wife has called me, getting on an airplane, sitting on an airplane before it takes off, and I've said, "Maybe my seat on the plane. I'll call you back." Like I won't do it. I won't sit there on the phone next to other people. I can't handle it. I can't handle when people are yelling about their affairs, not literal affairs, but things that they're doing. I just says, "Yeah, Johnny, I'll be there at 6. Okay, send it. Send the bill. I'll close it." Nobody cares, guy. No, we don't need it. We don't stop. I can't handle it. So I commend Ian for doing it. I really do. But it's a little bit of a different team. I want to go into how this happened. I want to go into some of the schemes, the X's and O's, a little bit from last night's game, because I do think some things were a little different than what we thought they were going to be, how it was played. We'll continue to break that down on the other side. Tell our listeners about Bromberg's first, G-Mac.
Well, love Bromberg's. Love the experience I've had when I go in the store. Bromberg's a place where when you walk in, you might buy something that might be in your family for multiple generations. Go and check it out today. You'll understand exactly what I mean when you talk to the sales staff. They go above and beyond to make sure that you have what you need and that you are in a position to feel comfortable with what it is you're buying. And you're also going to know, if you go and buy a natural diamond, for example, you're going to know the history of that diamond, where it's from, how I got it. It's responsibly sourced, and it supports communities all over the world. Bromberg's is the only place I would go if I was looking to make a luxury purchase for my family, for my loved ones. So go and see them at Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit. All
right, when we come back, maybe Ian Fitzsimmons, maybe not. More national championship game talk. And throughout the course of the show today, what would Jeremiah Smith be worth? Is he the number one player returning in college football next season? Where does Ryan Day now rank in college football's active coaching list? Also, top 25 college football playoff for next year? An inkling of what that might look like. All still coming up. Andy Bertram at 8 a.m. on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Your thoughts on last night's national championship game? I do want to get into a conversation at some point today, Greg, of just what this 12-team playoff did. I will say this. Marketing works. It's proven. You buy ads here on Jocks, good things happen to your companies. Ask the people that advertise with us. But for the longest time, I guess really the last month or so, this commercial that is, it seems like it's the old printing press of the teams and, you know, the Family Feud thing flipping over, the sign flips or whatever. Like we asked 100 people, do you use a shopping cart at the grocery store? Yes or no? Survey says, and it flips, you know, when you ask.
Yeah.
The little teams flip in, and it was like an old school like typewriter printing press of the 12-team playoff. And my son has asked me multiple times, my 7-year-old son, not the 4-year-old, Daddy, why is this going to be the first time ever for this? Why is this the first time ever this is happening? And when I forgot to leave him a note of who won the game this morning, so I had to call him. And I called him to tell him right before the show started, and he said, oh, also, Ohio State is the first team to win a 12-team playoff, Dad. And I was like, damn, marketing works. Like, it's because he got it from the ESPN commercial that's been going over and over and over and over and over. That's where he got it from. And so I was just, okay, yeah, there we go.
Love that.
I didn't pay any attention to that part of it until he brought it up. And then it was the first thing he said today. I was like, it's amazing what things stick. But I don't think we have time for it now, but just what does this change for you about college football? Did you like it? Did it bother you? What needs to change about this system? How much of a product of this system was Ohio State winning or Notre Dame even being there? Because we also saw some of the narrative coming out last night, Greg, of Notre Dame has no business in this. See, shouldn't have gotten there. And I thought Penn State was a pretty good team. I thought Georgia was a pretty good team. Indiana had a nice year. You could say what you want about that team, but I didn't feel like Notre Dame had the easiest path to be able to get to where they were. So we'll take some calls on that one, 800-239-9569. But just before we get into some of the X's and O's, as it all sort of settles down, what's your big picture takeaway about the most different college football season you and I have seen in our lifetimes?
That at the end of the day, like the best team won. I mean, that's the goal. The team with the highest ceiling won the game. Like to me, that is what it's all about. Is crowning a worthy champion. I'm not saying that any rendition of the 14 playoff or the BCS or even when we voted. I mean, well, when we voted, please give me a freaking break. Like what a joke that was. But starting in 1998, like all right, the last 26 years, like I feel like we've crowned a worthy champion. Had there been teams that have had arguments to be made? Sure, like in 03, LSU and SC splitting it. Yeah, that's fine. We've seen it at other times as well, but I don't know, man. Like I think last night was great, especially with these teams that are playing for the Natty and both had arguably the hardest possible road to get to the Natty. All this talk about, well, look how manageable it is for Penn State. Oh, well, look at, man, Texas, they lost the SEC and look how things have opened up for them. Like, didn't matter. Ohio State had to beat Tennessee, and we all think Tennessee's a pretty good football team. They had to beat Oregon, who was the best football team. Then they had to beat Texas, who might have been the second or third best football team. Then they had to beat Notre Dame in the national championship. And then Notre Dame, they got to beat Georgia. They got to beat Georgia and Penn State en route to a national championship. But you still got to beat the big dog when you get there, man. So I think it was great. I'm not sure what anyone could have a problem with as far as the postseason format is concerned.
No, I'm with you there. Let's get to a break. Come back on the other side. We will talk more about the college football playoff in general, overall, and last night's version of a national championship game next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:46 a.m. Tuesday, January 21st, Jocks 94.5. Going to get to the phones here in just a moment. 800-239-9569. National championship game, college football playoff in general. Now that we can look back on it, see how it played out, how it unfolded, do you like it? Do you hate it? Does it need to change? What do you want back? What do you like about it? A lot of negativity last night, and I might have a bone to pick with America's population coming off of the inauguration day. The responses that I was get from last night on what's the better option when somebody told me that they weren't watching it and didn't turn it on was mind-blowingly staggering, if that's a phrase or words. So yeah, okay. You can't tell me Cops reruns are better than live tackle football. Honestly, give me Arena.
Cops still on?
Give me Arena League 7 live before I watch Cops reruns, folks. Like honestly, I don't. But okay, we're in the middle of flu season. Maybe that's what it was. A lot of folks had the flu last night and felt like that. Jerry Springer reruns were a better watch than last night's live tackle football game. But make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard or air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. Yeah, some guy responded and said that there's some channel on something that he just recently found out that they do Cops reruns 24 hours a day, so he can always go get it, and that's what he went for. Not sure what Doug in Moundville went for, but was it the national championship game last night, Doug?
Guys, I was watching the national championship game, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with the playoffs this year. I enjoyed it. I feel like if you don't enjoy it, you're just going to, be a grouch the rest of your life because we're not going back. We're only going to move forward.
Fair.
So I think the best part about the playoffs is the first round where we're playing these games at home, and the energy is just electric. I hope we see more of that with the new playoffs.
Doug, I want to stop you real quick just because you feel like you have a pretty good grip on this whole thing. Do you think, specifically where we are, that mindset would be much different for a lot of other people if we would have gotten a home game at Neyland or Bryant-Denny or Baton Rouge or Gainesville or, hell, even Columbia, South Carolina? Do you think that because let's be honest, Austin, Texas, for a lot of people here still doesn't really count. Like that's just, that kind of is what it is, but whatever. But do you think if it's at one of our traditional powerhouse home stadiums that maybe people's minds on that is a little bit different and they feel a little bit more the way that you do?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you had a home game at Bryant-Denny or, Tiger Stadium, I think it would resonate more with people because, hey, they've been there. They know what that atmosphere is like, so they can kind of relate to it a little bit more than if you were, say, playing at Penn State versus SMU, something like that. But I thought the playoff atmosphere was great. Like I said, I wish we had more home games versus – playing in the Fiesta Bowl and playing in these, Peach Bowl and random spots like that. But I get it. I mean, it's money involved, so you have to follow the money. But, I enjoyed it. I hope more people enjoy it. The only other issue that I had that I really wish could be tweaked, we move it up just a little bit. But overall, I enjoyed the playoffs. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Entering the season.
Great stuff, Doug. Appreciate the call. 800-239-9569. You want to get in. Jake wants to talk national championship game. Jake, welcome in.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much. I'm a avid Notre Dame fan living in the heart of Dixie in Alabama. And last night was kind of hard for me to watch as a Notre Dame fan, being that, our team came out and, starting out on that first drive, it looked a little bit like they were going to get some stuff done and I was a little bit surprised, I guess, at how good the offense moved that first drive. And then Notre Dame turned into a team that I haven't seen the whole year, honestly, where they just had so many self-inflicted wounds. The penalties on the second drive, the fumble on the motion play.
Yeah, hit the snap, yeah.
Yeah, just out of character, and then out of character defense for them, too. Christian Graves, a bump and run cornerback, that they were playing off, and then in zone coverage most of the game. And I understand the receivers that you have that you're going up against, but, man, don't you kind of wish a little bit that Notre Dame had Riley Mills and Ben Morrison in that game?
Oh, I mean, you make the offensive line healthy. I think it might be a little bit different. They're not going to win it, I don't think. Also, I'll say this. And I think Greg will agree with this. I appreciate the call, Jake. That was the worst tackling game Notre Dame's had this year.
No question.
A lot of ball carriers that against other teams would have been to the ground, and Ohio State just wasn't having it. I'm going to give Ohio State credit for it, but though there was a lot of extra 8, 10, 5 yards that Notre Dame wasn't giving up against a lot of other teams, including Georgia, by the way. So I don't think it's just the talent differential, but a lot of those ball carriers, Greg, were getting to the ground against a lot of other teams.
No, they did not play well on either side of the ball. I mean, they had uncharacteristic busts in communication. Jeremiah Smith's first touchdown was on a bust where he was lined up to the right-hand side. You saw Christian Gray losing his mind, trying to get some type of communication, switching with Leonard Moore, whatever it was, and they couldn't get it communicated. All of a sudden, Jeremiah Smith's untouched in a slow jog into the end zone. I mean, there were a handful of those last night. That is very uncharacteristic of Notre Dame. They did not beat themselves. At any point, I've called 5 of their games this year. Never, not one time did I see them make more than one mistake in a game. And even their mistakes that they made were like tipped passes that were intercepted. Like they weren't like catastrophic. They were like, well, that's just a circumstantial mistake. Last night, it was a comedy of errors. And to be honest with you, errors from the coaching staff too, which is rare. I thought Marcus Freeman had a heck of a season. Great year with timely fake punts, timely moments where he played the right card to keep the drive alive or to steal a possession or to block a punt, to kick a field goal late in the game down 16 to make it a 13-point game with 9 minutes left in the game. It was a ridiculous decision. I think on 4th and 2 to run a fake punt with your backup quarterback as the personal protector was not a smart decision. Like I think they outthought themselves a little bit last night and kind of got away from who they are, which, hey, it's a learning experience. It's a learning experience. But at the same time, like I'd be surprised if Notre Dame's not back. Look at their roster. They're pretty young, relatively speaking. A lot of young guys
doing a lot, yeah.
And I think if they can get everybody back and keep going and figure out who their quarterback's going to be next year, whether it's CJ Carr or Steve Angeli, I think they're going to be in a really good spot to be back in the mix next year.
Have you heard Riley Leonard talking about that team and that locker room and that facility after the game last night? It will be a place that a lot of quality individuals want to go play football. Larry is on the road, wants to chime in on the title game. Welcome in, Larry.
Hey, guys. I always enjoy the show, but I just want to make a point. I could be out in left field, but hear me out. A lot of people in the South don't like Coach Harbaugh, but when you truly think about it, Coach Harbaugh had the plan from several years ago. And what I mean by that was, last year when Alabama played Michigan, majority of their team was 4th and 5th year players, were they not?
You talking about Michigan?
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, a ton of veterans and a ton of guys that stayed within that program. Yeah.
Well, my point with Ohio State is last year when Michigan and Ohio State played, that only gave Ohio State one loss. They didn't get their second loss until they lost to Missouri. And I know last year was a 4-game playoff versus this year is a 12-game, but when you think about it from the perspective of that with Coach Day, he kept all of his talent from last year's team, which was a very good team from the year before. And then, like you said, hired assistants and things of that nature with the money that they spent. That makes a lot of sense. But, there's no doubt that they had the team they could beat anybody this year. But I just think about it from the perspective of Coach Harbaugh. I mean, when Alabama played them last year, we had a much younger team, and they physically beat us. We gave them a decent game. But I just wanted to throw that out there, guys.
It's a great point, Larry. Yeah, great point. I appreciate it. And it's going to be harder and harder to do is to just keep your guys there. And I've used this story a ton of times. I'll use it again. 2 years ago, we sat down with Nick Saban before a game that we were covering in Alabama, and Tom Hart asked him about all the transfers that were gone and said, but none of those guys were starters. And and Greg will know exactly what I'm talking about. That foot started going really fast. All of a sudden, when his legs were crossing, I was like, oh, hell, here it comes. And he was furious. And he's like, what? And he went on about a 7-minute tirade of what you don't understand is that these guys have been in our system practicing with our coaches the way we practice in our facility, the way that we train, using our verbiage, knowing the guys next to them, knowing how we do it around here. We don't have to teach them the new drills. We don't have to show them where the position groups go in practice. They know where the weight room is. They know where their classes are. There's value in that. There's value in knowing what you have from one year to the next. And when you bring a transfer in, sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not. I think a lot of Auburn fans would agree with that. So not having the second teamer that can fill in, that knows the guy next to him, that knows the play calls. And yeah, you know him to an extent, but there's a lot of times you need to know him without the center telling you or without the quarterback telling you. There's a lot of times a receiver needs to run a route and the quarterback doesn't have time to signal it out there. Same thing defensively. So the value that comes with that, I think Larry's right. It goes a long way in building a team. I mean, hell, that's one of the reasons Notre Dame's where they are. They got guys that have been around and guys that have played with one another and been in the same system, the same scheme. So it will be interesting to see what teams can continue that moving forward. Didn't have time to get to you, Bob. I apologize. Andy Burcham talks Auburn right after this on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. $8 a.m. Tuesday, January 21st, right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We'll come back to the national championship game. Think about it like this. This is the question that I want listeners to answer for the rest of the show. How would you describe year one of college football with a 12-team playoff, the entire season? Good, bad, indifferent? Like it, love it, hate it, want more of it, add to it? We'll discuss it after we visit with Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers, who joins us every Tuesday at this hour, thanks to our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah, the big dog's got it.
The voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lifted, buy and rented, the big dog's got it. Now, Andy Burcham.
Andy, I'll start there with you. Just as a fan, how would you describe year one of college football with a 12-team playoff?
Work on the seating
and it's too long. It goes too long. I think there's too much time in between the end of the conference championship games and then the start of the actual playoff.
Fair enough. All right. And that's obviously things that are being discussed. We've seen already Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, discussing some potential changes to their conference championship game. I don't know about necessarily just taking it away, but looking at how to alter it a little bit. A nice win for the Auburn Tigers Saturday afternoon in Athens. And I think a lot of people will look at that because of what Georgia has been the last 4 or 5 years and say, well, you shouldn't have let that happen. It was close and in control of that game for a little while. But you go on the road in this league, Andy, especially being down multiple bigs at different point in that game, and then you're able to find a way to win. I kind of took that as a positive. It didn't bother me as much as it did a lot of other people. What were your takeaways?
I would have loved to have seen Auburn pull away from that game and get out of there with a comfortable win, but that wasn't in the cards for Saturday. I thought losing Janai Broome was not much of a factor in the win over Mississippi State last Tuesday. I thought it was a factor on Saturday, compounded with the fact that Dylan Cardwell, although he played really well, and especially on the defensive end, was a bit hobbled at the end of that game as well. And Chaney Johnson, uncharacteristically, did not have a very good ball game for Auburn. So Auburn relied on its guards to win at Georgia. And that is tough to do at Georgia, considering how good Georgia is at the guard spot. This is a different year in the Southeastern Conference. Wins are really tough to come by, especially on the road in the Southeastern Conference. Through 5 games now, Auburn is the only unbeaten team in SEC play. The only one. I think that goes to show you how very tough this league is, how really good this league is this year. Yeah, would have I'd loved to see Auburn pull away when it got up double figures. It just wasn't able to do that on Saturday. And it came down to a failed final shot by Georgia for Auburn to get out of that game without having to go to overtime on Saturday.
What do you make excuse me, what do you make of how Baker Mazzara, I don't think it was like the best game I've seen from him by any stretch, but I thought that was pretty much a pretty gutsy performance. How do you think he's fared now in the absence of Janai?
I think he has stepped up in the absence of Janai. I think he has been, along with Tahad Pettiford, Auburn's McDonald's All-American freshman, they have been the 2 players that have been the most consistent for Auburn in the Southeastern Conference, especially without Janai Broome in those 2 ball games last week. And Chad Baker Mazzara is an extraordinary defender. He probably doesn't get enough credit for that, and is Auburn's second leading scorer at 13.1 points a game and getting almost 4 rebounds a game, and is among Auburn's top assist guys and is among Auburn's top steal. Well, he is Auburn's number 1 in steals. I think a lot of folks would say right now that Chad Baker Mazzara is kind of the heart of this team right now. Sometimes the guy that's your heart guy isn't necessarily the most flashy or your leading scorer. But I think it's hard to say that the Chad Baker Mazzara isn't that guy for this Auburn team right now.
Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers, joining us now on the Buyers Right hotline. Physically, Dylan Cardwell, a little bit nicked up in that game. We know Janai Broome, not expected to be back maybe for the next game, maybe the next 2. If that continues to be a bit of a void, how does Bruce Pearl handle that with his roster?
I think he handles it as he has done through 2 games so far. And let me say this one more thing about Saturday's game. And I would be remiss if I didn't. Jaheim Hudson was an enormous part of that game for Auburn on Saturday, because he came in the game early. He played 18 minutes in that game for Auburn, in a game where Janai Broome didn't play and Dylan Cardwell was hobbled at the end with a cramp or something of that nature. And I think Dylan's going to be fine. He'll be back. I've seen nothing that says that Dylan won't be back to play against Tennessee on Saturday. It remains to be seen with regard to Janai Broome at this point. But the guy they call Turtle on this team was an enormous part. It was the best game he's played for Auburn. And I think he continues to get really important minutes. So I think that's partly the answer to your question there, is Jaheim Hudson. And he's not a big offensive guy, at least not right now. He had 4 points Saturday in 2 huge baskets, one in the first half and one in the second half. but I think he gets more playing time. I think Ja'Kai Howard gets more playing time. And to Mac's question, I think Chad Baker-Mazara drops down and plays a little 4 for Auburn at this point. And listen, they've won 2 ball games without Janai Brew, and they beat the number 15 team in the country last Saturday at Auburn by 22. And in doing so, they went to Georgia on Saturday, where Georgia hadn't lost in 13 games in Athens, including wins, two top 25 wins this year against Kentucky and Oklahoma in the same week. And Auburn went in there and won that ball game. Granted, it was razor thin at the end, but you have any choice. If you don't have Janai, then it's all hands on deck. It's Dylan and Cheney and Jaheim and Chris Moore and maybe a little bit of Chad Baker-Mazara playing on the low post for Auburn.
It's going to be interesting to see kind of moving forward. But one thing that we do know moving forward is that Todd Pettiford is more than likely going to see more minutes. Do you anticipate his role continuing to be off the bench?
I do at this point. I partly because, and Grant, here's a couple of, you can look at it this way. Why don't you start him because of what he is doing? But look at it this way. Look what he's doing coming off the bench. Why would you want to disrupt that at this point? And Denver Jones is playing very well for you at the point right now. 10.5 points, 1.9 rebounds. He's now 2 in assists behind Janai Broome, and he's also an extraordinary on-ball defender. And a lot of times Denver will get the toughest guard on the opposing team. And I think that's where he has a slight edge right now over Todd Pettiford. Now, to Todd. I'm continually amazed, and I guess I need to stop, but I'm continually amazed that nothing seems to be too big of a moment for Todd Pettiford. Consider his top 3 scoring games this year, guys. 24 at Georgia Saturday. Before that, his career high was 21 in Houston on a neutral site against the number 2 team in the country in the second game that he's ever played for the Auburn Tigers, and 20 points at Duke. That's his top 3 scoring games. Georgia on the road, where they had not lost, at Duke, and against Houston on a neutral site at the NBA Arena in Houston. That's what this young man has done. It boggles my mind how this youngster comes in and the situation, the setting, the moment is never too big for this young man. Look at the big free throws he made on the road at Texas. I mean, all 4 of these games are games that Auburn did not play at Neville Arena. He's the SEC Freshman of the Week. He deserves every bit of that, considering what he has done and what he did on Saturday with his 24-point game and that huge first half for Auburn on Saturday at Georgia.
With Tennessee coming up this week, this is as good of an SEC team as you'll find. Luckily enough, it's in the jungle. How do you size them up this weekend?
Big, physical, veteran. They're extraordinary on the perimeter. They've got among the top scorers in the Southeastern Conference and the number 1 assist guy in the Southeastern Conference in Zakai Ziegler, who it seems like he's been there for 50 years. And they're very good. They're very good, and they're big, and they're physical with Milicic on the inside. They're a Rick Barnes Tennessee team. I mean, and they spent much of this season as the number 1 team in the country until they went on the road and were beaten at Florida. And then they lose a heartbreaker to Vanderbilt. We drove to Athens, and one of the fun things that we get to do, I think, it's fun to me. And since Auburn played the early game, we listened to SEC games on the way home, and we listened to Bob Kessling call that Tennessee Vanderbilt game, and then we turned it over and we listened to Mississippi State and Ole Miss, and we listened one half to David Kellum in the second half and then in overtime for Neil Price. It was fun to listen to those guys, those fine broadcasters call really, really good games. But Tennessee will come in here, and it will be a great atmosphere at Neville. with game day in town that morning. It's the outlive game for Auburn, and all that goes with that, and all the money that Bruce and Brandy Pearl raised for cancer victims in the state of Alabama. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be at Neville Arena on Saturday night in what will be a fabulous atmosphere for basketball.
Are you able to just listen to another broadcast, or do you find yourself either critiquing or trying to take things that somebody does and apply them to what you do? Can it just be a listen to the game for you?
No, it's the latter. It's the latter for me. I'm listening to, I like that phrase. I like the way you termed that. I love to listen to these guys call games, and everybody has their own style.
Yeah.
And it's fun to listen. And there are times where I'll take, I really like that. I need to use that phrase, or you need to use that term, or how you called that play. Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it hard for me to listen to things. Whether it's somebody resetting or giving the time or just different things like that. I find it hard to actually gather what's happening or what's being discussed, because I'm kind of running through the things you're talking about. Like, all right, I'm going to try to remember that. And then you don't know what they're talking about anymore. So
it's fun to do. It's fun to do. And you know what? I've done that as long as I've been in broadcasting. When I was in my high school days back in Illinois, I mean, every small school in Illinois has their own radio station. So I'm flipping all over the dial, listening to different games and getting scores. I've done that for the over 40 years that I've been in this business. It's fun to do. I watch you guys. I watch you guys on TV too. It's one of the reasons I want to know where you guys are going to be, because I want to listen. I want to listen to the various calls and the crews and how they call it. We can always learn. We can always learn from the best in the business.
Do you have anything that you have to turn off going from, say, football to basketball, or basketball to baseball, and kind of say, okay, I can't be this anymore. Now I have to be this. I imagine baseball probably pacing from basketball to baseball. You say, all right, I got to slow down because we're going to have a lot of time here. And we do have time to get everything out. Where in football and basketball, specifically basketball, you're like, there's not a lot of storytelling going on. But how do you do that mentally for going from sport to sport?
And there is less storytelling in basketball and radio than it is apparently on the TV side. I think you see more storytelling on the TV side because you're watching the game and you're not relying completely on that announcer to tell you exactly what is happening in that. And baseball does give you that freedom to slow things down and to add more color into the broadcast. Pacing is a huge part of what I do. And there are times where I have to slow down in football as well. Basketball is a drag race to me from start to finish. And football or baseball is more of a marathon, is the best way that I can put it for what I do. And let me say this as well. The folks that I work with, from Jason Campbell to Randall Dickey and Brad Law, are huge parts of our broadcast, and we try to play off of each other. And I'm sure you guys are exactly the same way in the game broadcast that you do. And I'm glad that I get to work with these gentlemen, game in and game out. They're friends of mine. And for me, that's important to have that relationship with these gentlemen away from the booth or the court or wherever. But also the work that they do in the booth is extraordinary. And I rely on their expertise, their humor, their support. I'm blessed to work with these gentlemen.
No doubt. Andy, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it. And we know every week you join us thanks to Craneworks.
And Craneworks is the most trusted name for crane and equipment rental in the Southeast for over 30 years. They have a fleet of cranes ranging from 2.5 tons to 500 tons. Craneworks also offers trained and certified operators and riggers to make sure that the job is done right. Locations in Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and now Huntsville. Visit craneworks.com for more info. Guys, have a great week.
Thanks, Andy. War Eagle. Talk to you next week. Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, with us every week thanks to Craneworks. We're going to go back to the national championship game. Greg and I dive into the X's and O's. But I also want to focus in on that question that I asked a little bit earlier. First season of a 12-team playoff. How do you describe it? Did you like it, love it, hate it? Do you want more of it? Are you more likely to watch more college football with it next year or less? That and more, and maybe my issue with society in general. Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. So we're going to have a practice on the show over the next few minutes. 800-239-9569. You can text in. I want to give you every possible way to communicate with the show. You can watch live on YouTube, search Jocks945. There's an app you can go download, search WJOX, listen live there, get your podcast there. You can listen on traditional FM radio, 94.5 FM here in Birmingham, 740 AM in Montgomery, 103.9 FM in North Alabama. Be careful with the snow. Oh, the snow's going south. Be careful, Montgomery.
Yeah, they're the ones. Yeah.
Is the snow, as it pertains to Birmingham, essentially at that chapter book where as it approaches Birmingham, it's going to enter the tunnel and go south or climb around the mountain and go to us? Is it not made that decision yet? Because schools all over Birmingham are canceled, and I was under the impression that we're literally getting nothing.
Yeah.
Not all over Birmingham.
Oh, you guys are still going?
Yeah,
There was a
still going.
laundry list on TV a second ago. Shelby County virtual learning. Let me just tell you guys, folks, this is the best part.
That's a day off.
This is the best part. And Damien, you don't have kids yet. The emails that comes in is we're switching to a virtual learning day.
Okay.
If virtual learning is kids playing backyard football, riding their bikes, and NBA 2K, then you got it, guys. Congrats. You're going to get every bit of it.
Okay.
If it's Mario Kart and wiffle ball in the backyard, every ounce of it, you're going to get it. Congrats.
So virtual learned all through high school.
Yeah,
Okay, good to know.
If it's 4-year-old, 7-year-old trading baseball cards and the daughter using her sewing machine she got for Christmas, then yes, we will virtually learn all of that. But other than that, no. Here's the ways you can communicate with the show. 205-834-9450. Text in, call in there, 800-239-9569. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. Maybe something is wrong with me. And I'm willing to admit that. I'll be the first one to admit it. I got a lot of problems. This could be my problem. If it is, y'all tell me. And I can handle that. I can take it. I've been criticized by a lot of people. I got Ohio State fans all over my mentions for saying Tennessee was going to run them. And if I could go back today, right this second, and pick that game again based on what I had seen from both teams through the year, I would have picked Tennessee again.
Yeah, I should.
Exactly.
I would. I know Greg wouldn't, but I would, because Greg picked Ohio State. He was right, and I was wrong. And I'm wrong a lot. So last night, we were talking about this during the break. I tweeted out at one point in the game, because it was just amazing what Ohio State was doing, the efficiency offensively. I said, Ohio State has scored on 100% of their drives, converted 100% of their third downs, completed 88% of their pass attempts, to which Chuck Brand responds, super glad to have not watched. Now, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck here. Like, this was one of those times when, yes, I am a complete smartass on Twitter the majority of the time. And I can admit that, once again, a problem of mine. And that's, I'm working on it. Not really, but I'll pretend like I am. And I said, serious question, what was the better alternative to live tackle football? On a Monday night, when it's 19 degrees outside, which, by the way, total sidebar, I forgot to tell you guys this. I'm watching the Ghetto Weather Channel before the show started today.
The what?
Yeah.
Whatever. Family Weather. I don't know what it's called.
Teamy Weather.
The one that showed up when Weather Channel took their stuff down from all the YouTube TV and stuff. Olga, North Dakota. I haven't been there. I've been to Fargo.
Okay.
Not Olga. Hadn't seen the tape on Olga. Greg, you been there?
Not familiar.
Would you like to take a guess, Damian? Your co-host this morning stole it from me, so you can't answer this.
Gotcha. Would
you like to take a guess on what the feels like temperature is in Olga, North Dakota this morning?
I'm going to say minus 13.
John? Because I've been in Fargo when the feels like was minus 12. And I can tell you, when I stepped outside, when it hit me, my first thought was, you're not surviving this. Not me, any of us. Like if you got stuck outside in this all night, okay, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
But I'm just telling you, that's the first thought that went into my brain.
Luke Skywalker lived by sleeping in a giant snow camel in the second game.
That might be your best line in the show's history right there, by the way.
I'm not sure why you think that'd be so difficult. Just find yourself a snow camel.
Camelroo. Half camel, half kangaroo.
In Olga, North Dakota, no less. Yeah, I'm sure they're just rampant out there. I'm going to guess minus 50.
You would be closer to Bemidji, Minnesota, which feels like temperature of 52 below this morning.
Mm-hmm.
In Opheim, Montana, 59 below. The feels like temperature in Olga, North Dakota this morning was 62 degrees below zero. The lady on the Hood Alternative Weather Channel said, do not go outside with uncovered skin.
I feel like that.
A warning in which we are just not familiar with, by the way.
No.
I just have not had to meet that issue head on. And not sure I will in my lifetime. 62 below feels like temperature, nonetheless. So last night I asked the guy, serious question, what was a better alternative to live tackle football? Jolly, who tweeted into the show earlier, said he switched to hockey. KC, probably most anything on YouTube. Billish, the Bass Man, Sopranos episode.
Okay.
Rice Messenger tweeted in, long for the days of Alabama being a boa constrictor. If they were a boa constrictor 5 years ago, what are they now?
Rattlesnake.
I don't think they were. They were
Like an
not a
iguana?
boa constrictor 5 years ago.
Iguana.
No, they're honestly probably like a lazy panda bear.
They haven't been a boa constrictor in 10 years
Yeah.
because the version of Alabama in the last 10 years is the furthest thing from a boa constrictor. It's a high octane machine, meaning revving with crazy horsepower with their offense. The boa constrictor era was like 2009, 2011. That was the boa constrictor era.
Yep. Lord American Surf responded, I'm a Michigan fan. Watching paint dry was much more entertaining than watching the hairless nuts and leprechauns play.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's what a Buckeye
That's
is.
some real hate.
I just read the tweets, man.
That's some real hate.
Kids are out of school, too. I probably should have muted that one.
It's all good.
Tuscany Ramada, Trump taking office and watching Democrats melt. I thought that was earlier in the day.
All-day event.
One. Two, you're on the wrong algorithm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that one made it to his feed, just to be perfectly honest. Rural Vol tweeted in, there isn't one, Cole. This type of response is a symptom of the declining testosterone levels in the male population.
What?
To which I would remind him and everyone else that at Game Day Men's Health, you can get a free consultation today by visiting GameDayMen'sHealth.com. And they'll give you not just a free PSA test, but a free testosterone test for said declining testosterone levels for all men in America who apparently are not watching tackle football. They can help you with this. If your desire for watching tackle football is decreasing, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you. That's why they name themselves Game Day Men's Health, because live tackle football happens on game days, plural. If this is a reoccurring issue for you, and Cops or Hell's Kitchen or Golden Girls all seem more appealing than live tackle football, I suggest you go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, because they will give you that free PSA test and free testosterone test, which can cause a lack of energy. Getting poor sleep, I get it. You're falling asleep during the game, and because the game's on, you're not sleeping well. Or you put The Sopranos on, and somebody's getting a finger lopped off, so you're not sleeping good because you're waiting for that to happen. All could be the effects of low testosterone. If you feel on edge, maybe you're anxious because your team's not in it. Game Day Men's Health wants to help you get back to enjoying live tackle football, like we all should. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, get all the facts that you need, and get back to watching live tackle football. I would like to thank Rural Vol for teeing that one up for me. That may have been the easiest, segue that we've had in this show's history.
Ever. It was an easy one. I'm not sure. Look, I just don't understand the thought process of not watching football when it's on.
Sabinator Greg says, Cops reruns in Hell's Kitchen.
Doesn't sound very Saban-like, but what do I know? What do I know?
Apparently, Coach likes Weather Channel. I don't know if he watches the ghetto Weather Channel like I do. But.
No, he keeps people out of their verbos.
What should that be called? Like, what's the best off-brand analogy? The Voltron Weather Channel?
Yeah.
Because let's be real. Voltron always played second fiddle to Transformers.
Correct, right.
Yeah. Wasn't Voltron a Transformer?
In a way. He was more of a assembly line transformer.
Devastator.
Transformer of assembly. Yeah. I don't think individually I don't think they all individually changed into different things. They had to come together to form a new thing.
Correct, yeah.
It's a Megazord. Wow. It's a Megazord, Greg. Power Rangers terms.
Similar to that. Yeah.
Well, duh.
Yeah, you know what's up.
If the Thundercats I always saw as the ripoff version of He-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Some people put Thundercats first. I wasn't into it. I feel like they stole that from Hacksaw Jim Duggan. No, I thought it was dumb.
Oh man.
I was a He-Man guy. Skeletor. Manny Faces. Ram Man. Those were the guys that you wanted to be like. Anybody who had a giant metal frame around their head that could run and jump through walls, who didn't want to be that guy? It's like a cartoon Craig Ironhead Hayward.
This explains so much.
It does. And probably why I still watch tackle football and these people don't.
Maybe, right, yeah.
Because you're telling me you wanted to watch people cook food and get yelled at instead of two of the traditional college football powers, love them or hate them, competing for a national championship while trading paint and actually trying to bring ball carriers to the ground on a field.
For a trophy.
Maybe my brain is warped beyond recognition. Maybe these people are lying to me. I don't know.
They don't love ball.
Apparently.
But Gordon Ramsay.
They do love puck,
right.
though. A couple of them saying they're going over to hockey.
Well, we have
I
somebody.
like hockey.
I like hockey too, just not
during
I don't
football.
prefer it over live tackle football for a national championship.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's national championship. Regular season hockey is not going to do it for me. And I don't believe these people. Like, I don't believe you exercising your right of not watching as like a, some type of virtue signaling. Oh, I'm only loyal to the SEC. I'm only loyal to my school. Like, it doesn't make you cool, bud. Like, you're not cool for that. Like that. Like, you are not. You're not like the most hardcore fan ever because you decided not to watch the national championship because your team and/or your conference was not involved. Like, you just denied yourself the opportunity to watch a little more football.
E. Robinson
Nobody thinks that's
responds
cool.
in, the answer is simple, guys. Alabama football is a chameleon. Look like game busters on paper, play like the replacements.
Woohoo!
Replacements won.
Fair.
They made the playoffs.
Right now, Milrow or Falco? Who you taking?
Milrow.
Falco. Footsteps Falco ripped, except for that Sugar Bowl game for Ohio State. Do we ever even know who he played against?
I don't believe,
that
I don't
Sugar
believe
Bowl
we
game?
knew the opposition. No,
No,
I don't think
it was said,
I think it was
no.
ever stated. Never laid that out.
All they ever
I hadn't
said
seen
was,
the tape.
"Oh gosh, you cost me a ton of money in that Sugar Bowl. That Sugar Bowl. That Sugar Bowl." None of us know who the opponent was. I just want to know who beat him.
Yeah, Nokia was lacing up the pockets on set for somebody there. Changing, get Sugar Bowl in here. All right, Damien's got some responses coming in. 800-239-9569. You want to tell me I'm wrong? You want to tell me I'm a caveman, meathead? That's fine. Call in, text in, tweet in at Mac and Cube. More right after this. Tuesday, January 21st, 8:36 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Year one of the 12-team playoff. How would you describe it? Did you like it? Did it work? Is it good? Also, why you didn't watch last night. If you didn't, you can maybe say you didn't, but if you really didn't, let us know. You can text into the show 205-834-9450. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. How does the text feed look right now, Damien, with folks on this topic?
It's a little back and forth. Joey texted in. He says WWE Monday Night Raw on Netflix was the best alternative last night.
All right.
Didn't watch a single second of the championship game. Kept up with the score on my phone.
What's going on right now? I don't know. I hadn't seen the tape recently on Raw. Like, is Brock Lesnar coming back yet?
I think
like, what's our big feud?
Hornswoggle.
Isn't Brock Lesnar on SmackDown?
I don't know.
You'd be ahead of me. I got no issue with it. I don't know what the big feud is right now.
Is Bianca Chase?
What are we building up to right now? Not SummerSlam yet. Are you on WrestleMania
Rumble?
build up right now? Royal Rumble first?
Yeah, Royal Rumble's coming up.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
All right, what else?
Michael texted in. He says, I know this will make Cole upset. Not trying to, but I haven't watched a playoff game or bowl game that Alabama wasn't involved in ever.
Listen, that doesn't make me mad. I'm not mad at anybody. Did I not lay out the waiver here that maybe something's wrong with me? I'm fully
that
okay
person that just texted in is an Alabama fan, not a college football fan. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
No problem.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you are exclusive to one team, there's nothing wrong with that.
Like that one, I actually respect a little more. Like, okay, my team only.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
I can dig that.
It's just you can't call yourself. You're an Alabama fan. You're not a college football fan.
Yeah, which is great.
That's perfectly fine.
Zach Manning tweets in, gasoline freezes at 40 to 50 below. How do these people get around up there? They can certainly have it. That feels like temp, 62 below, not actual temp.
Diesel freezes a lot at a lot different temperature than that. Diesel's like gelatin at like 15 degrees, I feel like.
Damian, what else?
Mike in Huntsville says, I didn't watch it. Didn't care about either team. Doesn't make me less of a man.
Well,
I don't think anybody was checking your manhood.
I just read the tweet of the guy who said that,
right,
that's his opinion on what's happening, and I just felt like I would give people a safe alternative, which was Game Day Men's Health.
I just want to know what you want. What did you watch instead of a national championship game?
There were no accusations made by anyone on this show. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
My only accusation is that it's a virtue signal. Like you are abstaining from something that is fun.
Right.
I just don't understand the thought process of it. And if you are doing it because you are exclusively an SEC fan or exclusively an Alabama fan or exclusively an Auburn fan or exclusively a Tennessee fan, then fine, that's cool. But you can't consider yourself a college football fan.
Exactly.
If you are just a fan of one team, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But you have to acknowledge what you are.
I feel like I laid it out clearly. I don't care. I just am amazed that not one or two people, a lot of people would rather watch Cops or Hell's Kitchen than Ohio State and Notre Dame for a national championship. By the way, playing football on a football field in pads, full speed, live, as in happening right now. Not Betty Sue getting arrested at a trailer park 7 years ago. But that, once again, or a kitchen show that's been edited from 3 years ago. These are my problems we're trying to deal with on the air right now. These are my issues we're trying to solve, not yours.
So do people really love ball anymore?
Is that
once again, GameDayMen'sHealth.com can help you with that too.
Do people really love ball?
That might be the biggest problem.
I don't know.
Hey.
Football losing popularity in society.
Greg and I have addressed this to an extent on the show before with today's college football players.
Right.
That they don't watch a lot of football anymore. Greg will tell you, because Greg had Notre Dame, 4 times? Jeremiah Love does not watch football. Jeremiah Love is not a quote football fan, and he's one of the most talented players in the country. He didn't grow up watching football. Like he would rather watch anime and movies and things like. Now he has forced himself to start watching more tape and different running backs and highlight reels of Barry Sanders and Saquon Barkley, but he's not like a football. Like Monday nights, he's not watching Monday Night Football. He doesn't just turn on Maction on Tuesday nights. So. But this generation, your generation, the one after you, have grown up on highlights.
Right.
And I think they want to go. I mean, you think about like the NFL account on Twitter on Sundays. You see every touchdown in 5 seconds. You don't have to watch an 18-play drive and then the touchdown. You just see the touchdowns.
That's fair.
Some of us enjoy the build up to the touchdown or the interaction in between series or what the adjustments are being made. Other people just want to see Jamar Chase go moss a dude and catch the touchdown pass. Like that's fine. Not mad at it. Don't care. I'm just trying to figure out.
Wired different, yeah.
Like, is my brain the one that's warped here? And maybe it is. And we'll work on that.
I think if you look at the numbers for NFL, which, to be honest with you, is a bit, I'm not saying it's a stale product, but it's not like you watch college football for something more than just you like the environment, you like stuff like that. If you're watching NFL, it's because you want to, one, either bet on it, you like fantasy, or two, you just like the execution. And maybe you do watch Jamar Chase moss on somebody, but that's not, you can get that watching SportsCenter or get that on your phone or on social media more so than watching a full game.
I would say this, Greg, and this is what's a little bit interesting about it. The response to how you would describe the first 12-team college football playoff season is about as mixed as people who did and did not watch last night. There are a lot that hate it and say that it's ruined things. There are others that say it was incredible and it helped. John, do we need a break here? Because I want to go to a response from that, which I find a little bit, I don't know, disturbing. There's a lot of people who are kind of beginning to discuss a diminished regular season with this 12-team playoff, of which that one you're going to have to help me with. Because right out of the gate, where is SMU late in the year? Where is Penn State late in the year? I mean, I'm talking about the fans. Tennessee fans, where are you late in the year? Alabama fans, were you not on the edge of your seat wondering if you were getting in? Did the Iron Bowl not have extra meanings? I'm never going to say it had none. Did it not have extra meaning because you had a chance to get in? Just felt like a lot of those games later had more meaning for more fans because they thought they had a chance to get in. South Carolina, Clemson.
Oh, yeah.
Clemson's trying to get in. Carolina thinks they got a shot to get in. Felt like that one a pretty important game. Ohio State and Michigan?
And then only to find out that when Clemson lost, because of what happened with Syracuse and Miami, the outcome didn't really have a huge impact on Clemson.
But
at
Syracuse
the moment,
Miami
it felt
did.
like a death blow.
But Syracuse Miami was a regular season game, and that one counted because of that. So that's one people are going to have to help me with. I don't know. You might need even more help though when you retire and the paycheck stop. How are you going to pay your bills? Do you have a plan that will help you accomplish that regardless of market changes or an unstable economy? If not, and you'd like to get one, get in touch with Tad and Tony Hill at Freedom Financial. Go now to askfreedomfinancial.com and you'll find out how you can protect your retirement. That's askfreedomfinancial.com. And Tad is our local financial advisor here on Jocks that has a message for you today.
Thanks, Cole. What I'd like to do today is talk about something that none of us really like to think about, which is market volatility. And particularly as you near retirement, it's very important that you're not overexposed to risk with too much of your investment money, because for most of you, you're going to need that money to live on. If you've got too much risk in your investments and we go through a big market downturn and you're pulling money out at the same time, now you're having to sell when markets are down to pay your bills. That's called sequence of returns risk. That and the strategies on how to insulate you from that, we cover in our Retire with Freedom course that we do at our office on Valley Dale Road. If you would like to attend the next course, we cover that and many other strategies for retirement planning. Text JOCKS at 205-988-0006, 205-988-0006.
This is a paid placement. Investment advisory services are made available through AE Wealth Management. For more information about Forbes rankings, visit Forbes.com.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:48 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. We're all going to feel like polar bears out there today. It's going to be chilly. Not 100% sure how the precipitation's going to look. Feels like a little back and forth. I thought we weren't going to really have anything to worry about. That may be a little bit different now. I'm not 100% certain, but Greg, tell our listeners about polar bear services regardless.
Well, I'll tell you this. I know that right now with this extreme weather that we're experiencing, it's going to put your home to a bit of a challenging situation. And it might not just be the HVAC system. Polar Bear Services can get you fixed there. They were actually at my house yesterday, believe it or not, helping me out. I was on the road. I needed them to come by. They did. They helped us out tremendously. Appreciate Weston and the guys for being able to make sure that we were all taken care of. But I know also with the addition that they have now made in plumbing, burst pipes are going to happen. With the weathers right now in the 20s, teens, in that vicinity, we could have some plumbing issues that are going to come to this part of Alabama. So go and make sure that you remember every single time, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, so there are multiple messages coming in on my question of how you would describe this first college football season with a 12-team playoff. And a lot of, listen, there are a lot of positives out there. 800-239-9569, you want to get in. Horns fan 722 is great. Watch the whole season in playoff. Needs a few tweaks, but that's about it. Stephen Yates, the playoff is fine, but the whole system needs to be tweaked. I think the major conferences need to split into 4 divisions, have a 4-team playoff for automatic spot, help eliminate the Indiana SMU debacle, so you'd have more chances to see teams against top-tier competition. The Flats Are Real tweets in, combined with NIL, it's a big meh. That's what Krankenstein says in the book, by the way, if you're wondering. Meh. But a lot of folks are alluding to the fact that like college football constable tweets in, the importance of the regular season was diminished. The NCAA has no idea what it's doing. Nate, invitational, not playoff. Dragged on too long. Most of the games sucked. Devalued the regular season, specifically rivalry games. Stop the music for a second now, folks. Alabama was playing for a spot to get in against Auburn. Michigan, Greg, would you describe Michigan as a subpar football team this year before the Ohio State game?
Yes.
Average at very, very, very best. Like 1 or 2 aspects of their team really good. Overall, supremely average.
Literally 6-5 at the time.
Potentially eliminates Ohio State from the playoff in a rivalry. The cops were tasing the players. I've never seen cops tase players on a field after a game when a flag was attempted to be planted on turf.
That's a felony now.
Doesn't matter.
That didn't matter?
Game didn't matter.
That was diminished.
Game didn't matter.
That was diminished?
Yep. Done.
Game has
Ole
never
Miss
mattered.
playing for a spot to get in against Mississippi State. That didn't have meaning. That one was diminished.
Absolutely.
We just mentioned Carolina Clemson. I don't know if we would classify Syracuse Miami as a rivalry game, but
hey,
did Minnesota and Wisconsin run over and grab the axe this year?
They did. It didn't mean nothing. Didn't mean a thing.
Texas A&M after 13 years, no meaning?
None.
With Texas playing to get in the playoff?
No.
Nope.
That was diminished.
I think A&M could care less what happened.
Exactly.
In that game. Didn't matter.
I can't. No, guys, the regular season was not diminished. And by the way, if you're an Alabama fan saying this,
oh boy,
previous designations of said playoffs, you were done early November. Like you literally turned it all off. Now you not only went up to the last game, you went to the selection show after the last games because you thought you might be in. How does that have less meaning?
Guys, explain to me this. This is not difficult. This is not difficult. Alabama, for those that are listening, this is Greg McElroy speaking here at 8:53 Central Time in Birmingham, Alabama. Alabama graduate with multiple degrees. My entire family is Alabama. My sister went to Alabama. My dad, who moved to Savannah, just got an Alabama license plate. Like, we are all in for the Tide. We won a national championship in 2017 after losing to Auburn.
Hit that drum roll, John.
We won a national championship in 2017. We lost to Auburn. Did the rivalry game matter that year?
Where's my snare? Hit it, John.
Yeah, I don't have it just ready to go. I show that. That's
If I may, 2011, we won the national championship. What happened in that season? We lost a game to LSU. Do or die game. We lost that game. We went on to win the national championship.
Preach it, brother.
I'll keep it going.
Keep it going.
How about in 2021? 2021. We beat Georgia. We beat them in the SEC championship game. Beat them.
Roll Tide.
Tell them.
Beat them to sleep.
Roll Tide.
And guess what? We won the SEC. It was great. It was amazing.
Out. Let it all out.
And then what happened after that? We lost to Georgia in the national championship.
Didn't have to go there. But
Like, so you're telling me it's the 12-team playoff it's the 12 team. That's what we have a problem with now.
Mm-hmm.
The regular season no longer matters. No, because our school has benefited even in the event of disappointment. We have. In a 2-team playoff, mind you, in 2011.
Tell them, sir.
Tell them.
What are we doing? Like, guess what? I'll tell you what I like about the 12-team playoff. The best team won.
Boom.
Preach the word.
And you know what I also like about the 12-team playoff? I like the chances of my team being one of the best teams here pretty soon.
Roll Tide.
I like knowing that I can actually go out, and while it might take me a couple months, I can tell you this. If our 2010 team got in the playoff, I bet you anything we would have won the national championship.
Amen to that.
We had a really, really young team. We had a
Amen to that.
really young team. We had, just hang on. I think we had a real shot. I'm just being honest. If the 12-team playoff was in existence, I would think got a real shot.
Glory
We had a
be.
really young team. We had freshmen at multiple spots, guys starting for the first time, multiple spots, and we grew into ourselves as the season went along, and we're playing our best football in the postseason.
Ask Michigan State.
So
about
what I would say is this is probably going to benefit you more than you realize if you can just assemble teams that are capable of competing with the top of the sport. It doesn't matter who you are. It could be Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Texas. Doesn't matter.
SMU.
It's anybody. I'm just speaking about it from an Alabama fan's perspective.
Tell them.
I think this is a good spot. The best team won. We rewarded in a true, genuine meritocracy where you had to earn it on the field.
Oh, yeah.
We crowned a champion last night.
Yeah.
That to me is pretty special.
There it is.
That's the bottom line because Greg McElroy said so, baby.
I like the way we went straight to church to the ring with Vince McMahon.
Roll Tide.
Hey, Stone Cold played at Texas State, though,
Stone Cold.
so he's right in there. He's in the mix. He wants his team to get in there, too.
That's the bottom line.
J.G. Kinney going to get his team in there. Rattlesnake could be dropping stunners on everybody in the 12-team playoff. We'll continue the conversation on this season in general. The X's and O's of the game, how that went. Greg and I haven't really taken much of a deep dive into that just yet. How do you want it to change? And more. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Hour number 3 underway. Still going to take your calls, get your feedback. 800-239-9569. Stay weather aware out there. Stay safe today if you are moving around. I have no idea even what it looks like outside. Is there precipitation? Is it raining, snowing, sleeting? Are we okay?
Yeah, I think it's just cold.
I don't know what's happening, but
they now close schools for cold.
Yours are going still?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, it looks chilly out there. I mean, it's not Olga, Montana chilly or North Dakota chilly, but it does look cold.
What are they, bison?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to make it. Still want to get to the 12-team playoff, the season that was. Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? And I do want to say for the ones that we discussed in the last segment, there are a lot of people like Crash 3021. Entertaining and fun for me. More teams in the playoff hunt during home stretch of regular season, which made it really exciting and interesting. Playoff format just needs to be tweaked, perhaps have the end of the season at an earlier date. That seems to be consistent. And
I got no problem with that.
Jim Phillips has, I guess, begun to think about changing the ACC championship game. And when you saw this, maybe you got a little bit excited like me and said, is he going to actually try to get rid of this thing? But then you saw what maybe he's really thinking about. And obviously we know SMU entered the ACC championship game as a regular season champ, lost to Clemson in the title game, had to sweat it out before getting in. Phillips said the ACC could consider giving its regular season champion a bye. Oh, no. Jim, you can't have a championship game without the best team in your conference competing in it. Now, I'm dumb. I failed math 3 years in a row in high school.
It sounds like there's 2 rounds that they're trying to put together, though.
Oh, to make the season longer.
Into the championship.
Got it. Let's add more games. They're going to start their season in July. I mean, I'm for it.
June,
more tackle football.
Yeah, why are you complaining? I thought,
I'm in.
Wait a minute, hold on.
I'm
now.
in.
Yeah.
Not sure how I feel about that roster. Dabo better be building some depth, but I think there's only one real answer to if conference championship games are to be tweaked some form or fashion, and it's purely the elimination of them. Would you agree with that, Greg?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see the conference championships go away. And I hate that.
I do too.
I really do. I hate that. It's part of the fabric of college football. But I think an additional round of the playoff and just take it to 16 is probably where they're going. And with that, you're only watering down the conference championship games even more. I'm not sure what purpose they serve at this point. I love them. I don't want them to go away, but I also feel like they're a little redundant.
Also, B. Jordan tweets in, didn't like it. Too many blowouts. Not enough competitive games. Okay. 39 overtime games this year, 36 overtime games last year.
Oh, boy.
42 in 2022. You could 20 and 21 kind of COVID numbers a little bit weird. But the 4 or 5 years before that, the range was between 30 to 35. So actually fewer blowouts, more competitive / overtime games this year than all but one of the last 10. So that's not even real. I mean, maybe you watched a couple of early season games or watched too many games during lettuce week, and that was your takeaway. But no, that's not a thing. Alex,
is he referring to just the playoffs by itself?
The whole season. The whole season.
Whole season.
That was
Gotcha.
a question about the entire. Like, how would you describe the first college football season with a 12-team playoff? Too many blowouts.
Gotcha.
Not enough competitive games. Alex Page tweets in, I feel like those same folks who say the college football regular season is diminished are the same ones who said the teams who played in non-playoff bowl games wouldn't care. We saw the opposite! Explanation point. Example, Birmingham Bowl. Guys, maybe you didn't pay attention again, and which is cool. It's not a huge deal. This was the best bowl season I ever remember. Not including the playoff games or what would have been before, a national championship game or to get to that. I mean, these bowl games were exceptional, competitive. We have multiple. Northern Illinois Fresno went to double overtime. South Florida San Jose State went to overtime. A ton of one-score games.
Yeah, tell Iowa State that that Pop-Tarts Bowl
was right.
meaningless. Yeah.
It was a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Navy, Oklahoma, 1-point game. Kansas State, Rutgers, 3-point game. Arkansas State Bowling Green, 7-point game. I mean, these bowl games, USC A&M, that was an awesome game. 35-31. Miami, Iowa State, you just mentioned it, John, 42-41. This bowl season was great, but, they don't matter and they don't care. Iowa, Missouri, 27-24. ECU, NC State, 26-21. But they, Alabama, Michigan was a competitive game. Didn't go the way a lot of people wanted. South Carolina, Illinois.
Right, yeah, coaches about to swing on each other.
They're making the tee in the end zone on kickoffs, for God's sake. Who does that? So
I thought it was a great year.
I thought this bowl season was bananas. It was great. Jolly, by the way, John, tweets into the show again. Can we have that music every time Greg talks?
We can do it. I feel like it would probably wear us welcome. I'm completely objective.
At least you say it out loud.
Once you say it, it must be true.
Yeah, speak it into existence.
I think you'd be okay with it here. I think you'd be annoyed if it happened every time you talked in your real life.
You're right.
Can you imagine if somebody casts a spell
I
on
might
you
prefer
and every time
it
you
in my
start a
real life
conversation
to the radio.
Out here to order McRib, and then you hear it again.
Fans are with Rocky Top. They played after an incomplete pass in a timeout.
I think even your kids after a while be like, Dad, shut up.
Enough, Dad.
We just want to get through a conversation with no drum roll, please. It's like, stop. It's I don't know. I will say this. The anticipation of the playoff for me was less than I thought it was going to be going in. But the games were great. And I know there were a couple that weren't overly competitive. SMU, Penn State. I get that. But nobody thought Arizona State, Texas was going to be fun.
Mm-mm.
We all thought that was just going to be a blowout. Everybody thought Georgia Notre Dame was going to be a blowout.
To be fair, we did get more lopsided games in the postseason because we had more postseason games. But if we remember, how many of those semifinal games were also blowouts too?
Exactly.
All of them?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Basically. So I don't.
But we still got good, fun, competitive football when it mattered.
If you did, if this, well, let's just say, for argument's sake, this diluted the regular season, quote unquote, from a lot of people tweeting in. What do you want to go back to? Like, do you want to let old sports writers vote on who the best team in the country is at the end of the season when they probably never played and had no chance to play?
And watch maybe a game a week.
Conference tie-ins to certain bowls that they couldn't even get out of to potentially go play one another? Is that what we want? We already do know that a segment of this wants the computers back, to which I will remind you, you hated it.
Yep.
You didn't like it. I will tell you to your face, you didn't like it. Because I didn't see anybody walking around in 2009 saying, man, I can't wait for those computers again. Give me more computers. Nobody said that other than the Rubik's Cubelic. No one else wanted that. Nobody.
The Rube Cube was down for it, though.
100%. They bring us all the software. Extra algorithms. But nobody, you guys, you did not like computers picking your teams.
Nope.
You didn't. Now, I know what's going to happen is all the professors were helping with the formula are going to tweet in and say, oh, but this is the science. Good. Good. Go watch Hell's Kitchen. Take your beaker and
Bunsen,
your scale, and have it over there.
And all the other Muppets.
Good
Congrats.
riddance.
Have it. Go for it. What system do you want? If
People
you want,
just like to complain.
But if you want, like the listener said a little bit earlier, if it were shaved down and maybe a little bit more of a clear path as to who gets in where, I could see that. If you said, hey, I want 4 big conferences and the winners of those conferences get in and they play. Or I want 6 big conferences and we have the winners and we figure it out from and we just, the automatic's going to be here, here, here. I get it. Some of the seeding stuff didn't work out the way people intended for it to, because that was supposed to work the exact opposite way that it did this year. That's why it was designed. It wasn't designed for what happened this year.
Mm-mm.
I don't think anybody saw that coming. I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen. But college football said, you're welcome. Didn't see this, did you? Just like when we did the 4-game redshirt rule, just like when we did NIL, all of it. Just like when we did conference expansion, nobody thought that we were going to completely wipe out a historic conference in college football. We all thought it was really cool until the Pac-12 walked off the cliff. But here we are. This is what we got. And I understand a lot of our teams weren't in it, but I don't think that made it less compelling. I don't think it made it less good. Was it a little long? Yeah. I mean, hell, for you, Greg, it was longer than for any of us. So
if we remember, going into the season, everyone was excited that this was the longest college football season ever.
Yep.
Ever.
Now at the end, it's like, oh, it was so long. Like, we touted it as such, and we were all excited for it. Do you not remember?
What are we waiting
Put
to
an
do?
SEC team in. Tell me how many people feel the way that they're feeling right now. Put an SEC team in.
Probably not as many.
Replace Notre Dame with Georgia. Or replace Notre Dame with Bama. And tell me how many of you guys that are tweeting into the show right now have the same feelings as you feel right now.
Also, remember a lot of people saying, we need new blood.
Yep.
We need new teams.
Mm-hmm.
We need new brands. I'm tired of the good old boy network. Last time we saw Boise play for a national championship. Last time we saw SMU play for a national championship. I believe Craig James was driving a Trans Am.
And
it was new.
Trans Am, though.
It was new, not like a rebuilt deal.
That's called NIL now.
And for the folks that are mad about the $20 million, that also I don't. If they were the only ones, I get it. If we had proof that Ohio State had illegal NIL going that nobody else had access to, I would be 100% on board with you. And I'd be mad at them too. But I'm not mad at a team who does what they're allowed to do. If you get a coach that sits in his office and says, I ain't going anywhere to recruit, and you get a bunch of 2 and 1 stars, I don't feel bad for you.
Nope.
I don't. Now, for the people on the other side of that says every team should do what Ohio State does, you're not a real person with a real brain. You aren't. Or you just don't know things. And hey, my daughter's doing division right now. I can't, fractions. I can't help her with her homework because I don't know how to do that. Some people don't know things. I don't know fractions. If you say that, you don't know college football. So I'll stay out of the fractions. You stay out of the college football. How about that? And we can all work it out on our own. But I'm going to be the one here to help you with it and tell you, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because certain teams can't do what every other team's doing. They're not. You can't tell me that Virginia can do the same things that Ohio State and Texas A&M can do. It's not a real thing. And even if you wanted to go to what the Stanford players went to a couple of years ago and say that we've got this giant fund behind our university worth $300 billion. It's not for athletes, by the way, or sports, which I thought Stanford kids were smart. But to say that we need to go peel into our endowment to play college football players, and that's not fair because we have that. And where's mine? Because our endowment's big. You also don't know what you're talking about. But just because the school's endowment's big doesn't mean they have enough people who care to do it this way. A lot of schools do. Not every school does. But it doesn't make it bad. The product was actually pretty good this year. The football was actually pretty good. At least by what I saw. Are there parts of it that were sloppy? Sure. Yeah. Is that ever going to clean itself up, Greg? I doubt it. I mean, I doubt we're ever just going to get clean ball from start to finish with new players every year going different places. I'd love to see the portal get under control. You can sit there and say you want to cap NIL or you want guardrails on NIL. Well, guess what else is going to happen? The next underbelly is going to show up. And we're going to have kids getting CDs and bonds, and they're going to be getting check cards again. Well, however, there's going to be a way they're going to figure it out. They're going to list them as homeowners, something. They'll be put on boards of trustees to where they get paid by there's going to be a way. They're going to find it. Like Jurassic Park, life finds a way. Money
like
finds a way in college football.
That's a fact.
It just does.
That's a fact.
They're going to find a way to pay the kids more to get them to their school so they have more guys. But don't be mad that Ohio State did it right. And maybe not right. Right might not be the correct term. By the rules that are currently in place, which technically aren't even rules. I will also admit that. The NCAA has minimal to zero power right now. When you go tell a kid at a school Wisconsin, who just left, that said school has no ability to hold him responsible for anything contractually that he has signed and he can leave, you just negated your whole system. And we don't know where that's going, but it's going to be ugly. I promise. As I asked a friend of mine that covers the transfer portal the other day where a certain kid was going, and he said, this place, but I think you can get out of it. And I responded, can't every kid get out of it now? And he said, well, I guess so. There we are. Just play the drum roll.
Telling you,
again.
man.
Just play the drum roll again.
The state of college football address was absolutely phenomenal from you guys today. Good job.
Feel good about it.
Yeah.
College
I think I'm just mad it's over.
I'm definitely disappointed. I love basketball season. I'm excited to go into straight fan mode, but there's something really fun about football season too. And to know that we won't have games for the next 8 months is a little demoralizing for sure.
No, I'm just, it just hurts to know that we can't look at the schedule when the next game is.
No, it's disappointing. The good news is we still got NFL. We got good games to look forward to on Sunday. We have 3 football games left that matter. Cole, I know you're all in on the Pro Bowl.
The East-West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, and the
UFL.
UFL is going to be lit. But that's not until the end of March.
Yeah.
No, college basketball season is going to be fun. The NFL playoffs are going to be great.
I love basketball season because I get to be a fan as opposed to an analyst, and I enjoy that. But it does always make me a little sad the day after. Part of it, probably because I'm a little tired, but also part of it because it's just sad. Like, I love football so much, and to know that the season's over is a bummer. It always is.
Stubborn Things responds, cheating and buying elite players works.
Cheating?
Yeah, you cheated.
Mississippi State tried.
The agents. Rit tweets in, Big Rit, fraudulent. Flawed teams with big brands are allowed too many mistakes.
What?
Please present the one with perfection. Because that one got run off the field by the one that won the national championship that people said was too flawed, including myself. I can admit that now. Woody tweets in, Cole can't comprehend the Pac 1/10. No, I don't know what that is. Specifically with the adding of fractions to get to another one. And now there's this somehow like we're trying to what's the term that I can't it's
mixed fractions?
Decompose fractions? I've never heard that in math before. See, here he comes.
Well, he's a nerd.
He has 2 degrees. Apparently.
No, I'm the nerd because I like looking at baseball cards with my kids. But nonetheless, I did not know that the term decompose existed in mathematics because they were asking her to decompose fractions. And I was like, could we not come up with a different term? Like, wouldn't it be?
You just make it smaller.
So reduce it. It's the same thing as reduce it.
Yeah,
that feels like a better phrase.
That's what we grew up with. It was reducing fractions.
Right.
Like I would have said deconstruct. Would that not be applicable? Like you don't take it apart?
Like it's a thesaurus word. It's not, I mean, deconstruct.
Decompose to me is like
simplify.
decay, basically. Like it's
like we were simplify. Like that's what we used. When I was in 4th grade or 3rd grade math or whatever the heck it was.
I don't appreciate you taking shots at me for not knowing 3rd grade math again. But okay.
No, I'm just saying like we said simplify a fraction. They are clearly now using the word decompose, allegedly. Maybe that's a Homewood thing. But I can't speak to that. Like it was simplifying a fraction for us. Damian, what was it for y'all?
I think simplify, reduce. Like decompose is all science to me.
I'm more along with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, failed math 3 years in a row. So I'm not the one to speak on that. But Godfather
I
Soul,
always like fractions were actually quite confusing to me. I don't know about you.
Makes
Like,
me feel a lot better, by the way, for you saying that. A lot.
As a 3rd grade kid, like fractions were challenging. I thought they were one of the hardest things that we could do, like at that time. mathematically. Like algebra, for me, breeze. My brain just worked that way. But for whatever reason, fractions were a challenge. And all the rules that applied to fractions were a challenge as well. So I get that. Totally get that.
I'm going to be honest with you. A couple of them are multiple choice. And I'm sitting looking at the answers like, I don't have this. I can't get you to that.
Right.
Mom!
It's all about how your brain works.
It is.
Your brain just sees double teams up to the mic. And some, your brain sees pin and pulls.
That's it.
Some people's see fractions. It's no difference.
It's see ball, get ball versus see math, get annoyed.
There.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Accurate.
Some people playing football indoors put their hand to the floor. Greg, tell them about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Shannara Flooring's great. And they know that Fu and his company are extremely trustworthy because we know that replacing your floors is a really big decision financially, and to make sure that the job is done right, you want to go with a flooring company that you can trust and that you feel good about. They also have to be respectful of your time, respectful of your home, and they got to make sure that they do exactly what is asked of them when installing your floors. And at Shannara Flooring, they understand those concerns. They can put your mind at ease so you don't have to worry. Fu, the owner, built his team on a foundation of trust and integrity. So when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Fu. Call him direct at 205-518-6423. You can see all the new styles for 2025 at shannaraflooring.com.
Why the game went the way it did last night. We'll discuss it next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:25, Tuesday, January 21st, right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. Appreciate Ian Fitzsimmons, Andy Burcham joining the show earlier. If you missed those podcasts, available at JocksFM.com or the app. Search WJOX in the App Store. You can download it there. A couple other things happening in college football. There's a little bit of portal news taking place. Former Alabama/Texas tight end Amari Niblack's going to head to Texas A&M. And it looks like, Greg, that Ohio State quarterback Devin Brown is now going to end up at Cal. Do you feel like that's a good fit for Devin Brown? I thought he would go to maybe a more quarterback mobile-friendly system. But, yeah, so not, a little surprising maybe there for that one.
Yeah, it just depends on what Cal wants to be. It's obviously a little different. Fernando Mendoza was mostly drop back, did have a little mobility. But I don't know what Cal's offensive identity is going to be next year. I think we've kind of got an idea what they want to be. It's Brian Harsin. So we kind of know what Brian Harsin's been, but it's not like we know a ton of, does he want to use mobile quarterback or does he want to do a little more drop back? That's, I think, what we'll probably find out.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So where would Ryan Day now rank for you with active head coaches in college football? 2 Big Ten titles, a national championship. Oh, and by the way, he's 70-10. 70 wins, 10 losses, Greg. And now with the natty on his resume, I don't know where it was a couple of weeks ago, but pretty impressive to think about what he's done now as the Ohio State head football coach.
And think about how close he was to winning a natty in 2022.
Yeah.
Think about how, the guy was a field goal away from potentially winning a national championship. I know it's not a guarantee they beat TCU, but I feel like it's pretty safe bet. So I think he's been really close. I've always thought he was one of the best coaches in America. That has never been in doubt to me, but I do think more people now have solidified that opinion with the win last night.
He is, the 14 wins is the most in program history. We're going to start getting a lot of that stuff. A lot of the stats are going to be skewed too. Like Ohio State's the second team ever with a 4,000-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard rushers, and 2,000-yard receivers. So that has only taken place one other time. It was 2018 Oklahoma. You also had 2016 Tulsa, I believe, do it with a 3,000-yard passer. But you're going to see a lot of these things with most wins in a season and whatnot, just because we're going to have more games. 70 of his 80 career games as head coach is an .875 career win percentage, third highest all time among head coaches with at least 50 FBS games. He trails Walter Camp and Newt Rockne. That's it at this point in his career. 45 years old, youngest head coach to win a national title since Urban did it in 2008 at Florida. He was 44. So now you change the dynamic a little bit, Greg, from what's going to happen to him, when's it going to happen, to what's next, what's in front of Ryan Day. And this could turn into a much longer run with the Buckeyes of success than maybe anyone imagined 3-4 weeks ago.
Well, it could. I think you also need to take into account, though, that this is a program that's only won 3 national championships since 1968. I think that's something that needs to be acknowledged, that these championships in the Big Ten have been pretty few and far between, with the exception of the last couple of years. The first time they've won back-to-back titles in the Big Ten since the 40s. So I think winning titles in this era for Ohio State and company will be a little bit more manageable because of the roster and the NIL resources that they have. But at the same time, it's not like it's been a foregone conclusion that they're going to be in the mix every single year. It will be interesting to see where they go from here, because next year, while they have a lot of homegrown talent, next year there's a lot of pivotal pieces to replace. And I'm not sure it would surprise anybody if maybe they struggled a little bit, relatively speaking. But if there's one thing that we've learned, is that he's going to beat everyone that's not named Michigan. It's a safe play at this point, but will it continue next year? It'll probably be the toughest year he's had.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that, and they'll have a lot to replace. I do want to go back to the game last night and kind of how it played out and what happened. When you're talking about the strategy in place, scheming it up, so to speak, we talked about that first drive earlier for Notre Dame and how great it was and just kind of what they did marching down the field, 18 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes and 45 seconds off the clock. If it were to have been sustainable, you'd think right then the game's over. Notre Dame has the style fight they want. They're going to be able to control the things the way that they need to. They will limit the amount of opportunities that Ohio State will have to score. But then a couple of penalties on their next drive, and Ohio State scores on touchdowns on their first 4 drives. They score on their first 5 drives, and it seemed like the game's over in the opposite direction. What stuck out to you, first and foremost, from either side early on in the game about how things were being handled and what was happening?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was I wasn't not at all optimistic about their ability to sustain where they were at based on how they performed leading up to that moment of the game. Like, I did not feel great at all. Like, every yard they gained in that first drive felt like a grind.
Yes.
Multiple 4th down conversions. Didn't mean that they couldn't potentially recreate that. That was an ideal first drive. Not only did you have 18 plays where you are just delivering body blow after body blow to the Ohio State defense, you also are keeping your own defense off the field, which I thought would be advantageous to where they had to get going. So I don't know how you feel, man. Like, I'm pretty impressed with that first drive, but I never at any point felt like it was going to be a game that went that way the rest of the way. Ohio State was eventually going to bow up, force some negative yardage plays, and get them behind the sticks.
Like I told you, it felt like I saw, whether it was Tyleik Williams, Jack Sawyer, there were a lot of one-on-one wins up front from that defensive line. It's just either Riley Leonard find a way to slither through, or you found a quick completion. And I just immediately thought to myself, you can't keep letting those guys up front win like that, because it's not all the cutback's not always going to go your way. The linebacker's not always going to take a bad angle. The edge defender backside that's unblocked is not always going to be too flat. And that's kind of the way that it ended up playing out. Felt great early, but I'm with you. It didn't look sustainable for a lot of reasons. Specifically, Riley Leonard barely being able to get up the last couple plays of that drive. I mean, he looked like a guy trying to get up from a 10 count, and right there near the goal line. I couldn't tell if he was injured or not. Like, he could barely get up.
He was exhausted. I mean, 9 carries in one drive, though. I've never done that. Obviously, like, I'm not sure anybody needs to look into the box scores of the games that I participated in. But 9 carries on one drive is a lot. I think he was exhausted at the end of that drive and was more relieved than he was excited when he scored that touchdown to kick things off. So I think that was more a demonstration of fatigue than it was a demonstration of being beat up. I don't know if you saw it that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we need to get to a break. We'll continue kind of breaking down this game. There was one aspect of what Ohio State did that I thought was maybe a little bit more valuable than anything else. And it was discussed and it's known. It's just I don't know if it's being given its due. I will try to do that on the other side. First, I'll tell you about Gusty Gould's and the Gusty Gould's Group. If you need a home, if you're looking to get into a new home, if you just want to know what your home is worth, Gusty Gould's Group can help. Go to GustyGouldsGroup.com on your phone right now. There's a button at the top of the page. Mash that button. Very little information. You can find out what your home is worth immediately. Call 205-542-1996 and let the Gusty Gould's Group work for you. They've worked for family members of mine. They've worked for over 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. That's why they're going to be best suited to get you out of your home into a new home and get the most for it. GustyGouldsGroup.com or call 205-542-1996 today and start packing. The one thing that happened for Ohio State that I believe was as or almost more valuable than anything else they did. Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Ohio State picks up the national championship 34-23. Both of those teams finished 14-2 over Notre Dame. The most wins in school history for Ohio State. Same for Notre Dame, actually. Will Howard, 17-21. He started 13 of 13 for the game. I mean, Greg, he was lights out early in this game for Ohio State.
He played great. I thought he had a tremendous game. I was listening to a podcast on the drive home last night to stay awake, by the way. They were recapping the game. And it's just the typical, recruiting nerd, ridiculousness. They were trying to suggest that Will Howard's the 9th or 10th best player on their offense. Literally, that came out of someone's mouth.
I will say this now. I mean, just we can go through it here quickly. You realize that Emeka Egbuka is the all-time leading receiver in Ohio State history? He has more receptions than any receiver in the history of Ohio State football. That in and of itself is insanity. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, no conversation needed. Maybe you could talk about Carnell Tate, Judkins, Travion. I could have a conversation with. G. Scott, in my opinion, is your best tight end. I don't think I'm putting him ahead of Will Howard. And I'm not putting him ahead of the offensive lineman. Donovan Jackson did a great job for that team kicking out to left tackle. He saved a lot of the season for them because normally, and we've talked about this a lot during this season, you got to move a guy out to tackle. Good luck. It's just not going to go well. He was great for them, just not only at left tackle, but moving to left tackle late in the season. But Quinshon Travion, Egbuka Smith, maybe Tate. Definitely not. Definitely not.
He's fifth at worst.
Absolutely.
At worst. And I think you can make a case that you could put him in front of either running back.
Well, yeah, put it this way. If we're drafting a college football team and the three of us, Damian not in the room right now, all right, we're drafting our college football team for next year. John, you have the first overall pick. You can only choose from Ohio State's offense. We're drafting our team for next year. Go. You have the first pick. Okay, there's no thought needed here.
I'm just contemplating. I mean,
there's no contemplation necessary.
I mean,
no, there's not.
Obviously. Yeah, I'm taking Smith.
It's Jeremiah Smith. Yeah. Greg, you get the second pick.
Will Howard.
Okay.
If I had to
all right, so
win games.
We'll go the other way. Let's say I had second pick. I will take Quinshon Judkins. Who are you taking third? Will Howard? Again? So worst case scenario. So John, let's play it this way, John. Let's say Greg, you have the first pick. Who are you taking? Jeremiah Smith. Okay. So, and then I have the second pick and I take either Egbuka or Travion Henderson. Who are you taking, John?
If not the person you didn't take, probably Will Howard.
So there. I mean, if we're drafting a team, he's not going 8th or 9th. He's not going 5th either. So there you go. I mean, that's the best way I know how to lay it out.
I think he's a good player. I know that's not, because the recruiting nerds look at him and have 3 stars and he'll never be good. Because if you have 3 stars, you can never be good.
Well, a lot of this is going to go down to, Greg, we see this, and this is the Joe Burrow discussion. Everybody wants to say Joe Burrow got so much better from 18 to 19 and completely ignore what Joe Burrow was allowed to do or given the opportunity to do in 19 that he wasn't in 18. I mean, yes, Will Howard has exceptional weaponry. No one will deny that. But was he allowed to do or given the opportunity to do as many things at Kansas State as he's doing at Ohio State? Some of the time, maybe, but not consistently, I don't think. And they didn't even really unlock him until, the playoffs? I mean, I don't feel like he really got going until the playoffs.
Just because you don't doesn't mean you can't. That's what I've always said about quarterbacks' ability. Like, just because you don't doesn't mean you can't. And I think that a lot of it has to do with what your coach asks you to do, what you're allowed to do, whether you're empowered or not, whether you're told don't screw it up or not. Like, it depends very much on what your role is within the team. And in the playoff, his role was to be aggressive and to create big plays. And he answered that remarkably. I mean, I think that was really, really impressive. And look, a lot of people last night say, oh, well, all of his guys were wide open. You still had to go to the right guy. Like, they still had to make sure that he was looking in the right direction and that he was decisive with the side of the field he chose to work And he had to know when pressure was coming, where are my outlets? Like, he did that multiple times. I thought he played beautifully in the game. And I was amazed at how many people were trying to discredit the performance last night. It was ridiculous.
I'm so glad you said that all the receivers were wide open and that people were saying that, because I'm going to go back to my tease 2 segments ago. The thing that happened for Ohio State that I thought was more, this is just my opinion, more important than anything else they did in this game. The thing that happened for Ohio State that I think allowed them to continue to be in position to go win this game, Will Howard's legs. Timely runs that continued drives, runs that put them in scoring position. Doesn't mean that maybe somebody else could have made a play. Lob it to Jeremiah Smith, he goes up and grabs it. Lob it to Egbuka, he goes and makes a play. Maybe. Pitch it over to Quinshon, he makes a play. Possibly, but did you not feel like his scrambles were all necessary at that moment? And not necessarily in game-deciding moments, but keeping drives alive, getting out of trouble a little bit, made great decisions when he did decide to run. There were a couple when Notre Dame's pass rush got out of their pass lanes, lost contain, and he saw it quickly and he took it. So essentially taking what the defense gives you at that moment. It doesn't always have to be a throw. I thought his legs were huge for Ohio State last night. 16 carries, 57 yards, and he was sacked a couple times. So I thought that part, and maybe that just goes to the bigger picture of the decision-making for him last night. It wasn't just the throws. Some of them were the throws. Some of them were the runs. But most of it, Greg, were the decisions to do whatever he did on that play.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job with his legs. There were a handful of times, critical third downs that he converted with his legs. He also did a great job of being able to get to the outside on the left-hand side where there's plenty of space. Made a couple good decisions in the zone read concepts. Like, I thought he played great. It was a seamless and effort. If things run that smoothly, it's because the quarterback is doing what he needs to do. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. Like, he's going where he needs to go with the football. He's making pre-snap and post-snap decisions that are seamless. He's getting the ball out quickly. The pass rush never has an impact. He knows exactly where to go with the football based on the pre-snap action. He knew whether it was man or zone. He knew if it was pressure, if it wasn't. Like, he made all the right decisions, pressed all the right buttons. That's why that operation was so dang smooth last night. I thought he was the MVP by a mile. Quinshon had a great run to start the second half. Other than that, very solid game. Great job finding open space in the zone that allowed him to score the touchdown through the air. Had a couple of nice touchdown runs for sure. But Will Howard's the reason why they won the game last night. Will Howard and their defensive front seven. I think those are the two that deserve the most credit for the performance last night for sure.
I'm going to give you Ohio State's first 3 third downs from last night. All right. 3rd and 3, run for 5, first down, 2 plays later, touchdown. 3rd and 5, run for 11, 5 plays later, touchdown, including one of those 5 plays later, a 3rd and 2 where Will Howard runs for 3 and a first down. I haven't even gotten past the first 2 drives. So I just think that was a massive part of what they did and what he did, and that part of his game was huge last night. So Ohio State gets a national championship. We'll cap that off and the show off next on Jocks 94.5. Before we do that, tell our listeners about Shinar Flooring again, Greg.
The Shinar Flooring is great. Know that Fu and his team are going to make sure that when you make that decision to upgrade old carpet or upgrade to hardwood, you can rely on Fu and his team at Shinar Flooring. They are a preferred Shaw dealer. At Shinar Flooring, they understand the concerns that come with creating a big expense in your household, like replacing your floors. You got to find a flooring company that you can trust so you can rely on Fu and his team to know that they will get the job done right and have tremendous respect for the project and your home all throughout the process. So when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Fu. Call them direct at 205-518-6423 and see all the new styles for 2025 at ShinarFlooring.com.
Be back to give you a bad box score of the day and finish off this show next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
Welcome back, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Final segment of the show here on the first off-season edition of McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. I'll tell you when it's never off-season. It's never off-season at Bill Smith Buick GMC. They're going to get you taken care of. Their deals are always as sharp as it gets. That's why you need to go take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll see what I'm talking about. And go get yourself a brand new 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLT with a 4x4 X31 off-road package. $65,795 is the list price. They'll take $11,000 off that sticker, and you'll get it for under $55,000 to $54,795. It's deals like that that keep people coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So take the short drive to Coleman. Go see Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager. You'd be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right. As we wrap up this national championship for Ohio State, an impressive run. You think about what they did, Greg. It's their 7th championship, first since 2014. The 5th AP top 5 win for Ohio State this year. The AP poll started when? Anyone?
1936.
1936.
I thought it was 9, actually.
Did we all get 36?
Yeah.
They are the only team to do that.
Wow.
Oh.
In the AP poll era. The most ever. Second team in FBS history with 2,000-yard rushers, 2,000-yard receivers, a 4,000-yard passer. It was just a strong performance. And to be able to flip it on after the Michigan game, how that went, what happened, was just extremely impressive. Quinshon Judkins, 100 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown reception. He is the first player with 100 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a touchdown reception in a BCS or college football championship game. So Ryan Day gets his national championship, and the natives can now rest and allow him to move things forward. And it'll be a bit of a rebuild, Greg. There's going to be some guys that leave. There's going to be a lot of guys back, though, that are extremely talented. But I think what you look at is that he has found a bit of a formula that could work for him moving forward.
They will not be lacking talent, but they will be lacking quite a bit of leadership. I mean, they lose a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, more specifically, though, on defense. And there's buzz about him having to replace his defensive coordinator, too. I mean, there's buzz about that, whether it's got traction or not. A lot of people think that Jim Knowles coached his last game at Ohio State last night in victory in the national championship. So a lot of people wondering that. I don't know that for sure. There's just a lot of buzz around it. So it'll be harder to get back to the mountaintop next year, but certainly they have a formula that can be replicated and one that they can find success with.
All right, let's get to our bad box score of the day. Before we do that, quickly, I'll tell you about Your CBD Store. If you have arthritis, anxiety that bothers you on a daily basis, Your CBD Store can help. Maybe your pet has trouble getting around. We've got a couple in our house that did, and Your CBD Store has products that can help them. Better sleep for you. They have products that can help their skincare, gut health. They want to help your life, your daily routine be better at Your CBD Store, largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal. Go by one of their 3 locations: Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trustful just off 459. Your CBD Store, where good health hits home. Not the dynamo blowout that we would normally get. However, keep in mind, number 7 Texas, this is women's hoops we're talking about now, took out number 8 Maryland last night, 89-51.
Oh, not terrible,
but but not the biggest blowout we've seen. But this is the number 8 team in the country.
Yeah.
That you just beat 89-51. Texas outscores Maryland 28-12 in the first quarter.
Okay.
20-6 in the second.
Not great. Okay. Getting worse.
Now, third and fourth quarter for Maryland. Went down 25-21, 16-12. So good coach.
Exactly.
Maryland's women's basketball coach, good coach. You score more in the second half, first half.
They just jumped on Maryland.
The local media will tell you that's a
top
good
10
coach.
team.
Right.
Texas shot 54% from the floor. They only shot 9 threes. They were 12 of 18 from the free throw line. Only out-rebounded Maryland 35-29, but Maryland shot 40% from the floor. They shot 7 threes in the game.
How many did they make?
That's reasonable.
How many did they what?
How many did they make?
There wasn't a make.
Oh,
there was not a
wow.
there was
That's
not a
that's
there was not a
unreasonable.
made
Okay.
3-pointer in the game. No,
they were just cold. It happened.
Yeah, limited to 27 turnovers.
Like it was a holiday. Like maybe it took off.
Yes. Yeah. Only turned it over 27 times. So that is your bad box score of the day, because That was a 16-1 basketball team that went down 89-59. Now, Texas number 7, sitting there at 18-2. They're a pretty good team too, but that's your bad box score
SEC
of the day. Fun talking about college football, the state of it. I appreciate all your interaction. Not trying to call anybody out, but Game Day Men's Health is there if you need them.
Maybe because you didn't do it monotonally.
Probably it.
That was it.
We only do that in Montgomery.
Okay. But they're probably under 8 inches of snow, so they may not have heard.
Stay safe, Montgomery. Hunker down. Get the heaters on. Find the gloves. We're back tomorrow. More national championship discussion with 3-man front coming up right after us. And then Paul Feinbaum right after that. We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5.